Okay, then we have to see if Justin's
I saw a
around.
nice one in the yard.
Okay.
The day before.
He is, okay. Justin Wostown, he wouldn't drive. So, let's call the meeting to order. In approval of the agenda, we're gonna have some changes. Bob is gonna do your changes right away.
Sure. Just wanted to point out, agenda item 9A, the presentation from our consultants on the feasibility study for Gandy Dancer Study has been postponed to the next meeting, which is January 18th. They were planning on presenting, and then after the meeting, we were going to sit down with the stakeholders. Well, yesterday, a lot of the stakeholders called, they were concerned about the weather. So we just postponed it 2 weeks. So hopefully we won't have snow in 2 weeks and just transition after the meeting into that. So they'll be at the front of the agenda on January 18th. If we have time, 8A, the resolution to amend the Parks and Recreation chapter to allow ATV UTVs on county forest land year round. That resolution is complete and we actually have it on the draft agenda for county board this month. So if we have time allowed, we could move that to in front of the public hearing as well.
So
Then lastly, the Apple River solar update, I put that in the packet. That's the PSC report. If we had time, we can walk through that a little bit as well prior to the public hearing.
Okay. So with that, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as changed.
So moved.
Okay, from Brad. Is there a second? All right, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Approval of the minutes from our December 21st meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Sharon, is there a second?
Second.
Doug. You don't see any changes or anything? I didn't hear any comments, so all those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Public comment. Are you people all here for the public hearings?
Yeah, for the result.
You're for a rezone, you people are also for that, okay. All right, so we don't have anyone for public comment till then. No other supervisors here. So, Mr. Mo, we'll get you out early. Fantastic. We'll let you go out plowing some more. Get him in a plow.
Back in the truck. Morning, everyone. My name is Mo Norby. I'm the Public Works Director. Quick update on parks. A couple things we're doing right now. We're opening up for the equipment for parks, the skid steer and FECon had the bids will open on the 19th of January. And the replacement for the D.D. Kennedy walking bridge, we opened those bids on February 1st. So those projects will be in process moving forward with that. Right now, just maintaining parks, parking lots. I know the snowmobile groomers are having a hard time right now with their wheeled units getting through the trails since nothing's frozen underneath there. And we're constantly trying to fine tune the website to show that the trails are open and the right documentation. So we've added some stuff for the Stour and those parking lots and including the Woodley parking lot. So they know that one's open for snowmobiling.
Can I ask a question? Do they, when they do make changes, do they automatically let the tourism information center know that so they can update their website too?
I'll make sure that they're doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there was some question whether they were in sync and,
Right.
and be good to have that step in place. Thanks.
Okay. No questions of it. Huh, cut them loose.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Let's move our resolution up then. Resolution 123, first resolution of the year.
Yes, sir. First one. Again, because of the confusion of the seasonality of the ATV UTV season on Forest County lands, we thought it'd make sense to allow those open spaces open for ATV UTV use unless gated, bermed, or fenced, or signed. And then also to align with county fiscal policy, has the authority to sole source work for jobs less than $10,000. That is the essence of the amendment. Again, this is on the draft agenda for the January County Board meeting, and we're just seeking your approval and signature, Chairman O'Connell.
All right, so it's just, and we put just regulating activities. We didn't specify that it was ATV, UTV on the heading. Okay. I mean,
It's amendment to chapter 26.
okay. But primarily it's ATV, UTV, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
You think we should put that on there so it's a little more,
What chapter 26 has more than just this in it, doesn't it?
It does. So you'd like some more clarifying language on the
Because
title?
we're also regulating this last sentence here too.
for the bids and, okay. For the
You know,
bids.
so it's
Yeah, oh, the
outside
timber
of
sale,
just
so it's-
ATV,
it is more.
UTVs.
Okay,
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that would make it for
for that, for the other
a
one.
long
too.
title. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd make quite a title. Okay. All right. That's, I was just wondering if, so people don't think we're trying to slip it through or something. It's somewhat obvious if you read it.
Yeah,
Yeah, there wasn't any complaints, over hunting season. Really not contentious. It provides clarity to both staff and user groups to use the county forest lands.
And safety and public, they both looked at it too, did they not? They did look at it too, so. Other committee did, didn't they? Okay.
no. The other committee?
ATV UTV council.
Oh, the council did, not public safety. Did,
I don't know, did you share that with the governing
oh,
committee?
you didn't, okay.
Our rec officer welcomes this because he has trouble tracking which season.
Dates and seasons and everything. All right. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to move it forward to the full board. With
With recommendation,
recommendation, yes.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or anything? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Leah,
I'll sign it to you, Tim.
the new
Like, let's,
resolution format, the entire committee have to sign as sponsors or just Kim?
Just Kim.
has to. But if they want to,
Of course they can if they
we
want.
can. So it'd be nice to
This is
just,
the one
if
that
we're here to
Shavana
have them
sent
sign
out
it.
yesterday.
Yes, with the back page.
Yep.
Yep.
I just think it's good. We should pass it around. Then it's right up front that we all signed it or whatever. Okay. We have 5 minutes. We can get rid of, yeah, there's no clock around. Do you want to do 9B? So 9 is done then. That river update.
And is that what you'd like to do?
Well, that would get us down to just the public hearing and all the zoning stuff, if that's good
Correct.
to go.
This was actually Jason's idea. Both of us, maybe some of you are. I think you are, Sharon, signed up for the docket, so you get periodic updates from the PSC. Did you see this at all?
Yeah, I saw
Okay.
this.
Now, reading through it, I can't make sense of much of it because it's not my wheelhouse, but what I did gather, they did include the project schedule. That's included. The first step in construction starts with the stormwater retention pond after they, grub and grade it. We talk about gravel being placed on the footprint of the facilities, as well as a fire suppression system being installed. The facility is designed to fully contain a fire as well as any contaminants that are released, although they doubt there'll be any contaminants. It's equipped with some type of ground grid, which is to mitigate stray voltage. And batteries are recycled at the end of their life. Evidently, there's a recovery program where they extract key elements such as nickel, copper, aluminum, steel, lithium, etc. And they anticipate new recycling practices in the future. So that's in a nutshell what I gleaned from it. That'd be a good idea to put it in the packet because, they've been before us. Their construction schedule has been pushed into the future. And it kind of aligns with Jason's work here and part of your work today, which is the first deep dive into the renewable energy ordinance. So
Why did all the doors shut on us? They just shut. Somebody got a
This just
button?
automatically shut?
Yes, I didn't see anybody over there. So did that one.
It's a feature they didn't know we had.
It just kept doing that? Like shutting down?
Doesn't want recycled energy, just.
Just mow when we need
I
it.
don't see a little wedge thing.
No, I don't either.
Call Mo back.
Take off one of your shoes.
No wonder Mo.
Sure.
Yeah, I think he did. As long as it's pushed
Yeah.
open, I think it's gonna be fine.
I could put my snowboard boot back.
So they did it automatically. One of the subcontractors was here.
Oh,
Guess we're a test.
We test, lock us in.
Yanking
Or
the
ghost,
yanking the
right?
chain, yeah.
So this it just shows it's been pushed out quite a ways again.
Right, but we do have a project schedule, which I think was page.
Yeah.
Shows the timeline of whenever they start, how
Start.
long it's
Yeah.
going to take.
Take.
Yeah.
Doesn't tell us when they're gonna start. So
No.
I would say, having looked through it and like Bob, understanding absolutely zero of it.
Well, some of it, I mean, the
Well,
last,
I understood zero. You can understand whatever you got out of it. My concern was the very last page when it talked
Yeah.
about,
Yeah,
it's, shipping these, once the battery is contained in the best system, reach the end of life, the batteries will be removed from operation and shipped to a recycling facility. Well, where is it, for one thing? And then their very last sentence of the second paragraph, I think, states it all. New recycling practices and reuse opportunities may be available at the end of life. It's like saying, we don't have a clue what we're gonna do with them today, but maybe in 25 years, we'll have it figured out.
I think
It'd be like
There was an
California, they're
update
25
before.
years later and didn't figure anything out. Now
and
they
the
got
other
nowhere to
part of
go.
that is they list the main components, but they don't list the components that are in there that are not safe to be fooling around with. If they're doing landfill and stuff like that, they aren't listed. But if you go out and look and read about this best system, it tells you all about that. So I'm concerned with that last page too.
And there is no place, I think, in Wisconsin that does.
There
batteries
isn't
yet.
any, no.
Yeah, so.
No, it's like saying we'll send them to a recycling center, but oh, by the way, there is not.
There's not- Yeah, that's the, yeah.
Yeah, because they said the
But
state.
that was part of
okayed
their
them to
permitting
recycle.
process, wasn't it? That decommissioning and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll be looking at here later too. All right. Any other questions? All right then. We will start then. It is about 1:15. Let's open up one of our public hearings. Jason, read it in.
Got the right one. Right, so we'll start with the Smith rezone first. Recorder is on.
Okay.
Dale and Lori Smith request a rezone from agricultural 10 A1 to residential R1 for a parcel located at 1725 80th Street in Section 3, Town 34 North, Range 16 West, Town of Apple River. Parcel number is 004-000-790000. The property is 5 acres. With this, I'll just start out with exhibit 9, and I did send out all the exhibits that we've got up to this point. You should have exhibits 1 through 12. And exhibit 9 was the Town of Apple River's monthly board meeting minutes from September 12th, 2022. And that's where they took action on the Smith rezone. And I'll read right from the minutes. Dale Smith, 1725 County Road E, rezone request from Ag 10 to R1. The owner's son, Jared Smith, addressed the board. This will allow him to build next to his dad's farm. Motion by Supervisor Bryan to approve the application. Motion to approve, seconded by Supervisor King. Motion carried unanimously. So that's what the town did on this one. So then we look up here at this right screen. This is Dale Smith's property here, outlined in red. It's 5 acres. If you see around it, that's all the dark green, and the current property is dark green because that's the Ag 10 zoning classification. They're seeking to take and make that residential R1. They're proposing to split this parcel roughly in half. And then they're proposing on building a dwelling on this back area here. It's kind of hard to see with the green on, but that is a field area. The Smiths also own this 19.73 acre long skinny piece on the south side. Go ahead, Claire, and turn off that zoning district layers, both of them. The proposed driveway to get into the new house, not that it's real relevant to the rezone, but it's gonna come in actually on this south property. And I'll wrap up into here. I've got some photos of the site so that you can see that. I think that's probably due to in part that this area here in black is an undelineated wetland on the site. There is no floodplain or navigable waters. More than likely, this wetland probably extends all the way up into here. The applicant purchased the property in 1999. The Ag 10 zoning district has a density goal of 1 dwelling per 10 acres. The garage addition, I believe in one of the comments that we received, said that that was unpermitted, and that would be on Dale's house here. That's the part that's going east to west. So right here, that was permitted actually in 2014. And it's accessed by the county road, going north and south, County Road E. And the county provided a class 2 notice prior to the hearing. With that, can we go into those pictures underneath the Smith file? Took 2 different picture sets. One, I was standing right in their driveway here, and then I took another one back here, just so you know kind of where my 2 spots were. Okay, so this is again in their driveway, looking out towards County Road E. Dale's house is on the left. Can I? Oh, can you go back one?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, now what's after that one? Okay, so this is looking down, this is that other driveway that's coming in on his parcel to the south. Okay. This is just kind of looking southwest from the driveway. This is looking directly to the west. So this is the property that they want to split. The line would be behind that garage there. And then that field would be the new building site. This is the garage and that's part of the house. They've got a wood boiler there. Okay. Just did a panorama view. This is, now I'm back in that other location farther west. This is a picture of the driveway going on that south parcel. Okay. This is, roughly still on that south parcel. I'm gonna guess that that lot line for that 5-acre piece is probably over here on the right. Okay. This is looking towards that field and that's in the back, towards the area that they want to build. That's back up in here. Okay. This is looking southwest. This is back in that field now, and this is a shot straight west. These trees and that we're seeing in all these photos are these trees back here. Okay. Okay. You can see some piles of dirt up here. It's kind of the start of the foundation being dug out. So that'd be the new house site. This is that undelineated wetland over here on the right. You can kind of see it's kind of a lower area. This is looking from that backfield portion by that swamp back towards County Road E. So I'm looking east in this picture. The mobile home that's on the property is unpermitted, and they are living or staying in the mobile home currently. That wood boiler and that is got lines running into the mobile home for heat. Okay. Have any more? Just a couple pictures of that. This is the north side of Dale's house over there would be the north side. This is the inside of the L shape of the house. So the mobile home is sitting in here just like that, if you can kind of see. Okay. I think that's it for pictures, right? Okay. So you all got the exhibits. And do you have any questions on them, or do you need me to read any of them? I know 1 or 2 of them were handwritten, so they might have been hard to read.
Did everybody see them
Yep.
and read them? Okay, I read through them too also. All right.
And I did provide those in that to the applicants as well. They were the ones that the email was actually addressed to. So
Okay.
anyway, yep. Any questions for me?
Questions of staff then? I'm gonna ask, it's a lot like, it doesn't do any on the side set lines or anything. It doesn't make it non-conforming, does it?
Correct. The rezone will not make it
Not,
non-conforming.
it won't make anything okay.
Nope. In fact, actually by going from ag 10, the normal setback for a dwelling would be 25 feet from any property line. Going to an R1 zoning classification, it'll be reduced down to a 10-foot setback would be what would be
Okay.
required. So, yep.
So it wouldn't make it non-conforming. Okay.
So on the new building site then, Jason, where would the driveway come in off of, or would it be a shared driveway? I can't.
Can you move this map up a little bit? So I can see down here,
There's a driveway on that other
or
lot.
if you can just zoom.
That's what I
out.
thought, but
See it? Oh, okay, there it is.
Okay, perfect. It would come in at this one that's, I think it's 1721. And it'll come up like this. and
Okay.
then Up into there, so.
So will there be an easement then on that other piece for the driveway?
Well, that's up to them, and that if they want to, do it, we would definitely recommend it. It's easier to do it now, when you own that property than to try to, to do it after, but,
And that's an existing driveway, isn't it, with an address number?
correct,
Yeah, so they're not adding a driveway. Okay, on a county road. All right,
right?
all right. Okay, do you have any more?
yeah, so that's still County Road E that the driveway is going to access, or does that? Okay.
Correct. The access will be off County Road E. that image is pretty grainy, so
Yeah,
a lot more grainy than what we see on a computer, so.
up here, yeah, it is.
Mhm.
All right. Do we have anybody to speak for or against here? You would come up, state your name,
State your name.
because it's being recorded.
I'm Dale Smith. I own both properties. The lower driveway's been there since we bought the house. That was to the original house. The new house is the upper 5 acres. But both driveways were established over, well, the new one 30 years ago. And the old one, I have no idea when that has been put in there. So there's no new roads going out or anything being put in. Everything's been existing, staying there land. All I want to do is that part, because it's the easiest part and the most feasible part to build on. Because the other 20, it's pretty hilly and it's good, still good to farm and stuff, but I haven't done it for over 15 years, anything out there. We try and keep it mowed down and everything, but my boy wants to build in that because it's back out of the way where it ain't gonna bother anybody. And all these neighbors saying all this stuff, there's only 2 that made common sense out of anything with it. The rest of them, they've been that way since the day I moved in there. The way they treat me, it's just unbelievable. That's pretty much all I gotta say.
Okay, anyone have questions of the owner? All right, then, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Good morning. Morning. So I'm Elena Polly Smith. I am Dale and Lori Smith's daughter-in-law and Jared's wife. So we are looking at building next door to our parents. I just wanted to come up here and just kind of comment to some of the letters. I noticed one prevailing theme was the consideration of the beauty of the area and the preservation of the land. So I just wanted to share with the group that in us wanting to build out there, a big part of the reason why we chose the spot that we did was to actually preserve that neighboring chunk of land. One of the things that all of us enjoy in the area is hunting. And if we were to, build on the other parcel, I guess you could say, it would really affect the neighbor's ability to hunt and things like that, because of the house being kind of in the middle of a field that's recreationally used. So we just wanted to also kind of highlight that that's our common goal too, us moving in to this area. We fully intend on preserving and, treasuring the area, not to destroy or anything like that. There was also some questions about, I guess the reputation of our family. We're very good people. None of us, myself, Dale, Lori, and Jared, we don't have any convictions for theft. We do not have explosives or anything like that on the property that was mentioned in one of the letters. So, we just want to basically be able to do what many of the letters, the neighboring letter people wrote about passing along land within families. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep family land in the family, and to pass it on to our generation so that hopefully Dale and Lori's grandkids and us will have something to leave to our children too. So just wanted to share that with you and to say hello and thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions ever? No. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Well, with that, then we can go through. Yeah, we can go through the findings, I would imagine.
Can you pull up that Word document underneath the Smith folder, Claire?
Don't believe I can.
Oh,
It's like this PC does not have Microsoft Word on. Let me see if I can.
You don't have to, I guess. I got one printed, so I can just read off the findings if you'd like.
sure, go ahead. We'll see if it comes up.
Okay, so findings of fact, the zoning request involves a 5-acre parcel in the town of Apple River. The town approved the rezone request at their September 12th, 2022 board meeting. The property is surrounded by agricultural 10 zoning. The density of Ag 10 district is 1 dwelling per 10 acres. The density of R1 is 1 dwelling per 1 acre. The applicant purchased the property in 1999. There's an unpermitted mobile home being occupied on site. Access to the property is off the parcel to the south that the applicant owns as well. The garage addition on the dwelling was permitted in 2014. The purpose of the rezone is to create 2 lots, which would allow for the second dwelling in the field. The parcel has access off from County Road E. There's no floodplain or navigable water present on the parcel. There's 1 undelineated wetland in the middle of the parcel. And then the county provided a proper class 2 legal notice prior to this hearing and did not receive any public comments on the request. Anything else for
What was
findings?
the last time we received how many comments?
And that,
8 or 9?
yep, 11, actually.
11, okay. Then we received 11, okay.
11 comments.
11 comments, okay.
So that's an amendment that I need to change, so.
Okay, yep.
Okay,
I think so. What does everybody think?
yep, they're up there, so.
Oh, okay, there they are.
I guess I'm just gonna ask about the non-permitted trailer. Who lives in that?
I believe Iwina and Jared are living in the trailer. I believe Iwina and Jared are in the trailer right now, so.
Okay, the son and daughter-in-law.
Mhm.
Yes, it is kind of a long story, but I can explain if you want me to.
Will the trailer come out then when you move over?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's only temporary. We started this process actually trying to get permitted since June. So we've been doing this quite a while.
Okay.
While having that.
The other question I guess I had, so I'm sorry I didn't,
Nope, go ahead, ask. Yep, that's what we're at.
when you circle that area, where's all the people, the neighbors?
Yeah, yep, zoom out just a little bit. Zoom out a little bit more, Claire. Okay, so exhibit 1 was from Steiner. They have that 1.56 acre parcel at 1734. Fansler, exhibit 2 is 794, right here, that parcel. And that pass owns the 19 or 19.42 and the 19.62 acres directly west of the property. Can you move down a little bit?
The other down.
Nelson, which I believe it is a father or maybe some relation, owns the 19 acre parcel right to the south of their other parcel. They also own this one. Exhibit 4 and 6 were Richie and Julie Nelson. Their address that they had was down here at 1697, so they're right here, the house to the south. And Brookman, exhibit 7, also had the same address submitted for that property right there. Only I don't know where they live and that there was no address submitted with them and it's just moving around. I couldn't find the Only one. That was exhibit 8. And then can we go down a little bit? Oh, the other way. Sorry. Exhibit 11, and that in opposition was the Wallens at 1739, right there. And exhibit 12 was John Fields, which is 1731, right there. So we have heard from, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, couple to the south again, and this one. Did not hear anything from the guy that owns that 38.
Can you get to your browser? Is it
There.
What's that, Jason?
What's that?
No, I think we're
Nothing.
good.
I thought you were talking to me. Sorry.
No, we're good.
So pretty much surrounded.
Yeah, I just want, that's good.
Yeah, good to find out. Yep. All right, so we went through the driveways, all that. We have a staff recommendation. So do we usually go with what the town does, don't we?
Well, that's up to the committee.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
here's what I had for conclusions of law. Changing of the zoning of this property to residential R1 is supported by the town of Apple River. Most of the surrounding lots are used for residential and agricultural purposes.
Try that one.
The surrounding properties all are zoned Ag 10, so the same density regulations apply to those properties. And that the proposed rezone would allow the density to increase at least 5 times over what it is right now. However, it's only a 5-acre parcel, so it's double, but, and that basically we'd have 1 house per 2 acres. And that versus in an Ag 10 density, we'd have 1 house per 10 acres. So that's where I'm coming up with my 5 times and that here. So with that, and that this request would be, or possibly could be considered a spot rezone. And that the committee can grant a spot rezone. It does have town approval. We assume that that they looked at their future land use plans and agreed with the rezone based on those future land use plans. Our county comprehensive plan does not reflect our current zoning districts, but it does say trying to balance, economic development and natural resources, and that's so that you're using a mix of both. So I think the committee can really do whatever you want on this one. So
if it was rezoned, the most you could put on there would be 2 dwellings.
well, you could actually, realistically, yes. But they could actually break it down into 1-acre chunks because that's the minimum lot size in an R1 zoning classification. But then if we take and start using multiple driveways, we'd have to build town roads and stuff. So realistically, in that would be only a 2-lot deal. So.
Go ahead.
So the first exhibit, I think it was, you said anyway, was they own 1.56 acres, I believe. So I mean,
To look at it too, yeah.
it is there. I mean, literally kitty corner across the road, we have 1.56 acres. You didn't, maybe the others are all bigger, I'm not sure, but I'll say when you were speaking that.
So that's one
jumped
way to
out.
look at it is we've got existing non-conforming uses for the density of the area. Because the house here is on 1.56. Technically, these houses here are 1 house per 5 acres. So that'd be more of an RA5 zoning classification. And this one here is pretty close. I think that's 9.71, and this one here is about 9 acres. So, but there is some abnormal needs there. Here's White Ash Lake. There is a 300-foot buffer of R1 around the whole lake of White Ash. So that's the closest residential zoning that we have. But otherwise, everything going west and north and south here is pretty much all Ag 10.
So a lot of them are, like you said, they don't fit the Ag 10 already.
Mhm.
All the way
Yeah.
along there. So.
Yeah, I mean, the towns created their own maps, and Ag 10 is a little bit more restrictive, requires more rezones and that for, cases like the Smiths here in order to be able to subdivide. You know, so it gives them another chance to review any subdivisions, basically.
All right,
Another question.
go ahead.
Just clarify this for me, Jason. You said that the town board has approved this, but it also said, I thought in that we read that you sent us,
Yep.
that the plan commission.
Uh,
Producer, art.
Producer, yeah. That went through the planning commission too, didn't
Didn't
it?
it say that?
I think
Thought
so.
so.
It said on top, right above, Plan Commission and then in bold, Commission Chair Steve Arducer reported that the commission met and the items are next on the agenda. So evidently the Plan Commission reviewed this. Maybe the applicant can,
I have no idea.
okay.
Okay,
So, but I mean, it says here that the commission didn't meet and evidently they passed it on to the county board and then the county, or sorry,
Town board.
town board, and then the town board did approve of it unanimously.
yeah, I kind of. Sure. All right. Other questions? If not, then we'll take a motion to go either way.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, from Brad, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Doug. Any other questions or anything? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one moves on. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chair, we ready to get into the Walton one?
Yes, let's open up next.
Mr. Walton is down south. And he asked to appear virtually. And I said that would be fine. And I was on the phone with him here as your meeting started, and he's having a hard time connecting. And that through Zoom is coming up and that saying that there's another environmental services meeting going on at the same time. Is what he's telling me. So can he appear via phone? If you've got any questions?
We can try and call him through Zoom and patch him in that way.
Okay,
Number,
yeah,
can try and do that.
I'm fine. I think we'll be fine with it.
Oh,
Yeah, even if the phone, if he can't come through, I think so.
Call out.
Yeah.
We know his voice. We've heard him talking over the years.
Yeah.
This is only our second meeting in this room, right? You guys had one yesterday in this room?
John was on the.
Yeah, on there now?
phone.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
yes.
We could hear him, and he said he could hear us real well too.
Oh, good.
Is he on there?
We can see him.
Oh, so you can. Cool.
I can hear you.
Hear us?
Yep.
All right. So we haven't said anything yet. We're just gonna take and start your public hearing right now. I'll start by reading in the notice that was provided. Nick Walton Properties LLC request a conditional use permit to expand the gravel pit from 5 acres up to 20 acres. The property is located in section 2, town 35 north, range 18 west, town of Eureka. Parcel number is 020-000-380000. It's 39.02 acres. We did receive one exhibit. It was the last page on the PDF of exhibits that I sent out to you. It's the very last one. That is the only exhibit that we have received. We did provide notice to the town of Eureka. We have not received any comments from the town. This property was before you guys a couple times before. The property was rezoned into mining M1. So you can see the Walton property is this 40 right here, that's zone mining. There is another parcel that's zone mining to the south here, that's Town of Eureka pit. The pit there is right in the corner here. The conditional use permit to begin operating the mine came before you guys in May of 2021, last year. After that, the conditional use permit was pulled in early June. And that to begin operating. Nick has complied with the reclamation plan ordinance. He's got a current plan in that with our Land and Water Resources Department. The end use is agricultural, basically putting it back to crop production. The dwellings in the area are one to the south here, one directly across the road, one kind of to the northeast, and one kind of to the southeast. So those are the four closest dwellings. Everything going to the west here is pretty rural and wooded. The mine currently has a gated access. And I believe I'll let the applicant say, but he's wanting to expand the pit just because with the stockpiles and the berms and that are required, the area to be, stripped off. And that in order to get to the good material is very limiting in that, because our previous condition, we had a max of 5 acres, like we've got on all of our permits pretty much. And with that, we can jump into the pictures. Okay. So these photos were taken yesterday morning. This is the driveway looking out to the road. This is a town road. It's 190th Street. This is looking to the south. And that you can see 190th is along my left here in the picture. There's the gate. There is a porta potty on site. It's hard to see because it's all snow covered right now, but one of the previous conditions that we had in 2021 was that there would be clean rock put down to take and use it basically as a tracking pad to keep the trucks from tracking material out onto the road. Sign there for that, do not enter the pit. Just some equipment here, the conveyor belts. This is looking to the south going into the pit. Just another picture, you can keep going. Okay, so now I'm kind of back in the pit. There's a big natural hill right here. That's not actually burned, but there's a big hill there. When you're on the road, you can't really see the pit from that pole going south. This back here, that is the berm that he built with the topsoil. Okay. You can see that they have got a bit of some sand coming out of there right now. Okay. Some frozen chunks. Okay. I believe the applicant's trying to find some cleaner sand. You can see there's quite a bit of silts in here, especially up in here. It's not really fine grained, or it's not really coarse grained. This is just some of the equipment they've got on site, conveyors, crushers. Crusher over there, conveyor belt going up to the pile. So hasn't been operated for a while. Just another conveyor belt sitting there. This is looking to the southeast. So the road's over there. You can see by the power lines. This is the bank back here. It's tough to tell on that if they went down with the snow and that, but above, flat, I'd say there's probably between a 15-foot and 18-foot hill there and that, or a bank, to give you an idea. Is that the last one? Well, this is looking to the west. So this is the area that the applicant's looking to expand, going straight west. In your application packet. Attachment number 2 should have been a map. Yep, that red one, that is roughly the 20 acres and that they would like to, be a max.
So the 20 is in addition to the 5 that they're,
Nope, it'd be a total of.
total of 20.
Yep, correct.
15 added, yeah,
Okay.
And,
yeah.
yep, we'll go ahead, Claire. So it's tough to see in that, but you can kind of see this is just the general field and it is farmed all the way around it. It's kind of rolly hills, but everything in this area and that drops off the farther west you go as far as elevation, so it's gonna keep on going down to the west. This is looking to the southwest, so this would actually be the house back in here. Or here, there's a brand new house right there, so that's the house that we see in the background. This is the topsoil and the berms or the stockpiled material. Okay. Last picture. Okay. As far as staff, and that we did receive one complaint on the pit in the summer of 2022. I don't know exactly the day. It was about trucks driving fast. And I believe in that, Nick can correct me if I'm wrong, but so I got the complaint that day. I called Nick that day, said, hey, I just got a complaint about trucks hauling too fast down the road. I believe it was some of the local towns and their road guys and that with their trucks, the actual town trucks that were hauling that day. And that I haven't got any complaints since then. I believe Nick went right over there and talked with the guys and told them to slow down. So that's the only complaint that we've had.
Okay. Just for staff's view, the storm runoff that even though it doesn't all go west, does he have to upgrade that plan then? Will he have to upgrade his storm plan?
And then he'll have to update his reclamation plan,
He'll have
which will
both?
involve that. If it's not internally drained, then he's gonna have to have some kind of stormwater plan.
So
Yep.
both plans you'll have to update.
Usually in that these pits are internally drained because they're bermed all the way around, and that, but if it's not, then he'd have to update that.
Okay,
So, yep.
so he still has to update his
And
reclamation.
he'll have to update his financial assurance and his plan and that
Oh,
would be,
okay.
all that has to be done yet. So this is just to seek the original approval. So,
Sure.
and it does require the conditional use because you guys put a condition that he couldn't exceed 5 acres last time, like we've done on all the other ones.
Sure. Okay, does Nick have anything to add? He's here.
At this point, not really. Jason pretty much covered everything. My main concern here is just to have more room for stockpiling. I have no room. My intention of this pit in the beginning was to be able to come up with some extra rock. And right now I don't even have room to stockpile any different grades like 3/4 inch or 1.5 inch rock on site. We're pretty much filled up with a gravel pile and a reject sand pile. I also would like to try to find clean enough sand there for mound sand. And with the stockpiling room and stuff we have right now, it's impossible to do that.
Okay.
I don't foresee, I noticed one of the exhibits there, they were talking about more truck traffic. I don't foresee anything expanding that way. It's virtually just mainly for my being able to stockpile more different kinds of material on site there. That's the main reason for it.
Okay. All right, Doug, you have a question? Doug's got a question.
I knew a little bit more about this in the past, but you usually open up just a small area because of the cost, because you have to pay this amount of money. So he's not going to open up 20 acres right now. Is it like
Correct.
another 5 to operate in stockpile? Am I making sense?
Yeah. So you're not gonna, Nick, are you gonna open up the whole thing? Or are you gonna open up like 5 acres at a time to make the room?
Well, obviously, like Doug had said, the cost of the more that's open, the more it costs me. But I want to be able to open as much as I need to make it work. So that's why I want up to 20. I obviously won't be opening the whole 20 immediately. No.
Okay.
I'm actually I'm gonna try to keep it as small as I can, and then if by getting more room, I can start actually a reclamation toward the end of this coming season. I'm thinking I can start a reclamation just on one bank. There would be the east side, and that would be my plan, is to start a reclamation there to keep as much closed as I can, but by being able to open up more on some more flatter ground, and then start a reclamation. So I do have as little as possible opened up at one time, but with 5 acres, it's impossible.
All right, thank you.
That's the way
Yep,
it's
welcome.
done.
Yeah, that's the way most of.
Close
Okay.
some and open some.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, do we have anybody here? Are you guys here to speak for or against?
Yes.
Okay, come on up, state your name.
Tucker Cramwith, we live right across the street from it. At 16 or 2334. That's right across the street. And I guess it's trying to think of how to say it here. Nick just said it, that he doesn't want to open up 20 acres right now, but there is that possibility down the road. And I come from doing road construction and working around that stuff. And I've been around in pits and everything else. And the one thing that I come up with on that is with the 20 acres, at some point he will open that all up, and that creates that much more dust towards where we're living at. And that brings on more crushing, longer hours, more dust. My fiance works from home, and I don't think I'm exaggerating that it's that close in what we sent in for our comment of, I don't think that crusher is much more than 600 feet from our front door in a straight line. So we have vibration whenever the crusher is running. And I've noticed since he started in June, we have a well filter system. Comes in, filters our water, and I've had to increase changing our filters because they're filling up with more sand and particulates than it did when we first built the house. And it's those compounding things that I look at of expanding it to 20 acres that would lead me to believe, because that's kind of, in a sense, the American way. You get bigger, you make more money, which I understand that. It's just the effects that it has on us living that close to it and where he's at with the crusher and everything else. And it's kind of, to a point, frustrating on my side of things with it. And I guess I look at it and go, if he's looking for more room, could it be put down to 10 acres instead of 20, giving him another 5 acres to have open? To a point, I don't want to see that, and I would like to have it kept at 5 acres, but if we can come to a compromise somewhere, so his max is to have 10 acres open at a time. That'd give him another 5 acres to stockpile his materials he wants around, instead of being able to have that full 20 open at any one time to create the dust. And I bring up the dust because we are on the east side and where we're at, it's a constant. It's not constant, but when it is windy, it's windy and it blows right towards our house. And even I can say last winter. Yeah, because he opened it up in 20, yeah. Oh, well, I take that back, sorry. That's not wrong thought there, but that's more what I'm concerned with is the dust in our well and having good drinking water and the truck noise. That's gonna be what it's gonna be. I guess I'm fine with that. And from when I've been around this summer on days, to me, to a point, the trucks are respectful enough. And I don't know if that's because we're so close to the driveway that they're slowing down anyways to go in, but it's more of in the pit, in the crusher, in the vibration and the backup alarms and the dust. And I just see if he can have at any given time, be able to open all that up, that's just going to create that much more dust that's going to come towards us to the east of it. So that would be a lot of, I guess that's what I have to, that's my comment on that is if that can be, if we can come to some type of middle ground on it. I get he wants, like I said, the area to stockpile material, but does it have to be 20 acres? And I guess that's what I have to say, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Are you good?
Yeah, we sent in our email.
Okay. All right. Nick, do you want to address that like your crusher will be moving farther away and all that, or what?
Well, that is one of the things, by being able to expand my pit, the crusher will be moving farther away from Tucker's home. And I don't feel like there's going to be longer hours of crushing. We're not looking at anything like that. We're already limited to hours of use during the day. And so what he's seen so far is virtually what he's going to see in the future. I don't foresee any more. The main reason is more stockpiling of especially rock. And I haven't seen too many rock piles get too dusty yet. I really don't see any issues here with that. And as far as water quality, for what we've done in that pit so far, I can't see where it would change anybody's water quality. I know Jim Johnson lives right to the south. His well maybe would be more affected than anybody, and he hasn't said anything at all about his water quality and changing filters or anything like that. And like I said, like we talked earlier, I'm not planning on opening up the whole 20. I'm going to try to keep it as small as I can because it keeps my costs down. So bottom line is I just need more room, and then even limiting it to 10 is still, 10 might be, I may need 12. Do I want 20 open at all times? Absolutely not, because of the cost. Try to keep it as, and actually the side that I'd be doing reclamation on sooner than later would be the side to the east there, to the house that he's talking about. So by being able to expand out farther, I would be doing a reclamation and actually moving farther away from Tucker's house.
Okay. Anyone else questions then?
I guess I have one question.
Whoop. Okay. All right.
Is considered opening up, having the black dirt stripped off the top. is that considered opening up that part of the pit?
It is.
Yeah.
All land that's stripped, bermed, and stockpiled. So our land and water staff would actually walk the outside perimeter of any berms or any disturbed stripped area of land. So, and any stockpile area, so.
Yeah, no, I just wasn't sure on what is considered being opened up.
Okay.
So Nick, am I understanding that you plan on reclaiming yet in 2023 on that east side?
I would like to start like where you guys can see the gravel pile, just like toward the end of the driveway there to the south where the driveway comes in.
Hold on one
That's all.
second, Nick, if you will, and that, can you pull up the pictures?
Which one do you want?
Let's start with number 2 there. 102,700. Okay. Let's skip forward a couple, sorry. Yeah, keep going. Okay, back up right there.
There's the,
Okay, so Nick, we have a picture looking south from the entrance in your pit, and there's a pile, towards the road or up on the left-hand side as you're driving towards your crusher setup. That's gravel?
That's a gravel pile, and as you notice, it's almost gone. So my plan is if I can move my crusher, I guess I would say it would be to the west and to the south farther. Then I can start that bank that goes parallel with the road. I can start reclaiming that bank, but right now we can't because we have to keep that edge over there open for the gravel. So I could move my gravel pile to a different spot, more to the west. And then my intention there, as I make the pit bigger, I can take topsoil from the west, or maybe I would say southwest, and bring it over there and put it on that bank and start reclaiming that bank. So that's my plan of reclamation as I go, so I can keep the thing as small as I possibly can, but still be able to open up more for stockpiling. That makes sense?
yeah. Okay.
I hope I'm explaining it correctly.
Yeah, that it would be slowly but surely moving farther from the road and from any neighbor, because that's the closest neighbor. Isn't it? The other one to the south is quite a ways. Yeah, okay. All right. Any other questions? Because we didn't change anything else, it would just be the 2 plans they'd have to check into so far, isn't it?
Yep, and then,
Well, let's go through the findings then. Or if you have a question, go ahead.
What are the current crushing hours that he has now?
yep, that's what I'm having Claire pull up right now in
Pull up this-
Walton file or folder. There should be a Word doc.
should be 15 or 16 is there.
Yeah, the conditions.
So
That was good. Yeah,
findings of fact were basically what I provided earlier.
yep,
Okay, so then if we scroll down, I've got the exact same conditions. Okay, just a little bit more. I want to see this line right here. Okay, so his current conditions are no washing of material, no mining into the water table. Business hours are 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturday 8 to 1, no Sunday hours. Crushing of natural materials up to twice a year. That's one of the things in that's maybe not specific enough, because I think Nick would tell you that he's got the crusher there and they crush kind of as they need to. How long is twice a year? So I crush twice, but I crush for 6 months straight, so I'm running it year round, that's what I'm trying to say.
okay,
100-foot berm heading west along the south property line, beginning at the southeast corner, because that was the closest neighbor. So what that means is the berm that's built starts off the right of way right here and goes for 100 feet to the west. Berm along the road right of way. Like I said, that's kind of a natural berm up until that pole and that there along the road, and then it is pretty flat after that. Gated access we had before. this provision here changed in that it was 5 acres at any time. No blasting, no asphalt or concrete plant on the mine site. Operator shall keep the road clean of any sand or gravel, the 200 feet of clean rock for the tracking pad, the driveway to be installed with the town of Eureka driveway ordinance. So is that portion up, except for that 5 going to 20, was what the previous conditions were.
So on the south property line, do we have to extend that 100-foot berm then? I mean, would we have to extend it farther to keep for stormwater or anything, or,
Bad idea.
I mean, 100 feet
More
if,
than likely, he's gonna have a berm there anyway from the topsoil that
From
he
the
has to strip.
Right, anything that's open has to be bermed anyway, right? Or not?
Does not.
Okay.
Nope.
but that west side, it drops down, doesn't it? That might need a berm farther back then, or along that south lot line.
There's a clarification.
Yes.
Doesn't Nick come back again for a new conditional permit?
Nope,
Change it from 5 to 20, it just,
that's what he's at right
So
now.
we're guessing right now.
Yep, so that's what he's already here. It's already been zone mining that changed in early 2021.
right,
And then his other conditional use limited him to the 5 acres. So that's where he had to reapply for this conditional use to increase.
okay,
Yep, yep.
that's what I.
So, but we could add to these conditions, you know, because he's adding size. So that's what I'm saying, does that 100-foot berm have to be 200 feet
Right,
back, you know, to protect that house to the south? Maybe. And then if he starts reclaiming, that would be the corner, I would assume that he would do first. Like you said, he's gonna do it from the road in, which makes a lot of sense.
I thought he said the east side he was
Yeah.
gonna burn, yeah.
But then that'd be, his crusher and everything would be moving farther west.
Yeah.
Because right now he's right up in the tight corner.
So he's gonna reclaim right here.
Yep.
Yeah, it moves. Which, like they said, the cost to keep opening up too much is too much, yeah. So down to there, then, I mean, we'd only have to think about that. About the only thing that would change then is that 100-foot berm if it should be longer, maybe.
Okay. I've got some other proposals that we've done on other requests since we did Nick's in 2021.
Because now this one we have, we're down to no demolition debris, that, yep. Can we
Yep.
scroll up,
So,
please?
you scroll down a little bit clearer. And I got some to add here since our hearing today. So no material offsite shall be stored on site. That, so, you know, concrete, blacktop, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
No demolition debris can be hauled into the site. Trees and clean fill would be allowed though, because the fill could be used to take and reclaim a portion that's already open. No lighting except for factory lights on equipment. A single employee parking space is provided with clean rock. And then we had a condition before, I kind of lied before, but we had owner operator must follow MSHA. But then we kind of, you know, advance that condition to just make it a catch-all and that they have to obtain all licenses and follow all regulations, OSHA, MSHA, DOT, whatever it might be. And that, but that would all be on just that property, you know, and that not his trucks driving down Highway 35. So,
all right.
and then to add to that, some thoughts would be to begin reclaiming the east side of the existing pit by, you know, the summer of 2023. And that continuing the berm along the south lot line and updating the financial assurance and reclamation plan to whatever size is open. So
Okay,
those would be.
those would be the.
And if you wanted to, you could say that the crusher, you know, needs to move, you know, southwest of the existing location.
Which he'll move anyway, because it'll, yeah.
Yeah, and it can only,
It really doesn't,
as
so
he
much-
moves, can't
yeah.
move it to the other end of the 20, so to speak.
Yeah. But he moves that as he goes, okay.
you can ask Nick, but it's my recollection that there used to be somebody in Land and Water on site that did this mining reclamation and all of the open and closed and all that kind of stuff. Do we still have
We
that?
still have that because
Dane and that with land and water and that he's the one that administers the non-metallic mining ordinance. And
Getting at was that's all covered by land and water for Nick. They have to work this out, the amount that's open.
Yep.
Closed and
and the dollars per acre and that he has to pay because of it being open. I believe Dane goes out to each site and he measures it by actually walking around with a GPS. And that's what determines the total open acres. So
That's what I understood.
Yeah.
so it's pretty highly accurate nowadays compared to back in the day when you're pulling a tape too, you know.
he's working
So
with the town of Eureka to reclaim one of the pits that they've been using now. Dane is. Because they're starting reclamation.
So when you say, Jason, start reclamation process on that part in the summer of 2023, what's the definition of the summer of 2023?
you guys can put a date on it if you want. So.
Well, I mean, I just don't want it to, all I'm saying is June is unrealistic. I
It'll
guess,
almost be fall instead of summer.
well, I would,
With the, end of the season before frost.
yes, I mean,
So you could see
either that or, to me, start reclamation no later than the spring of 24. That gives, he's gonna reclaim it. I mean, the pit up by us reclaims as fast as they can because
And
it's
then-
financially feasible to reclaim
Yeah.
as fast as you can. So, I mean, if he can reclaim in July of 2023, I believe that's what he's going to do because it's in the best interest of his wallet
Yeah.
to do
Yeah,
that.
to do it, yep.
I just also think it's to say that you have to start by the spring of 24 is a little more, I guess I'll say
More of a
lenient.
deadline.
And all of a sudden that pile doesn't have to disappear. But like I say, I believe from the financial side, that will dictate that it's reclaimed as fast as it can be.
I believe so too.
At least locally to me, that's
What they're doing.
that's what's done. It's like, boy, if we can reclaim this acre, we're gonna reclaim this acre right now.
Yeah.
So that was just my concern of us saying, all of a sudden, it's, June of 2023, and it's like the pile of gravel is still sitting there,
So you'd let's, do you have your list printed out there or not, or just?
Yeah.
Done.
I do.
Well, let's put spring of 2024. Does everybody think that sounds good? Let's just do that then. For one of those new conditions. Then it's in there. Yeah, then he's not tied if something does happen
Yeah,
to try to get it done. Because you'd like to seed it and do all that too and everything. So,
yeah.
okay. So pretty much that's going through it.
Crushing, because that really wasn't, were the crushing hours defined anywhere, Jason, or did I just miss it?
No, they weren't.
Just the business hours.
Just two times a year you could crush.
Yeah, 6 to 8 AM, Monday through Friday, 8 to 1 is the hours of them being open.
Okay, so, but I mean, then that kind of does define crushing hours too.
But I can crush for 6 months straight.
Well, right.
During my hours, and then I can do another 6 months straight, so
Yeah,
that's. the
but
problem.
from the time frame, it isn't like you can crush until 11 o'clock at night. You can crush from
Right,
8 AM to 5 PM.
So do we? want
6 AM to 8
That's so it's
PM.
more specific as far as,
If you want, yeah, I have no idea how much Nick is actually crushing out there, so.
He doesn't know till he opens it up when he hits to how much
Yeah.
he needs, so.
Hard to set a time span when we have no understanding of what a time span is.
Yeah, what he opens up, what he hits or anything, yeah.
He's not gonna run 6 months because he doesn't have a material.
Yeah, he doesn't have the materials either, yeah. So it isn't gonna run a lot.
And he's not able to haul material in, so he's not able to haul rock or concrete from another pit and that into that site to crush it there, so that's why we got that no offsite material can be brought in.
Yeah.
So.
So he can only run through there what he's got, so he's probably screening more than he's crushing.
so does it make sense to leave that twice a year? One in there? I mean,
That's been a pretty standard condition that we put on a lot of them, and it wasn't until actually Nick brought it up, he said, what's twice a year, and I'm like, well, I guess. I don't know what that means. Typically, a lot of our operators, though, they don't actually own their own crusher. So typically, they're hiring an outside third party to come in and crush. So then twice per year makes sense because they're only gonna be there while they need the material. So they come in, they crush, they leave, you know?
And some of those, like the Hawes Pit, they'd run 24/7. So they'd run it 7, 8 days straight, right? They have 3 shifts of people to keep it going, because then they have to go to the next pit. That's where the biggest complaints were coming from, because it'd be all night
And
long.
we don't have, that's not an issue here because.
They can't go
of the
after
hours.
hours, so.
Mhm.
So if he had to have somebody come in, they could come in and crush.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of leaves that open for him too.
Isn't that what you do, Brad? You hire somebody to come in and they come in,
Well, you mean the town?
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have our own pit,
So
so.
if you work with a couple. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
Earl only has it in there when,
yeah. I mean, like our local pit, that's custom crushed and even there, I think they shut down by 11 o'clock at night. And there's no one within. Well, the owner of the pit is within a half a mile, but that would, well, I suppose there's a couple houses within a half mile, but they shut down at 11 o'clock, but then, but that's custom crush. They come in, crush a year, 2 years supply in a matter of
A week
a
or so.
week. And,
Running pretty hard.
and then they're gone. So, yeah.
So that's why this is on this one, because not everybody owns their own. So this would be,
Right.
if his broke down, like you seen the part sitting next to it, it might be broke down. Sitting on a pallet next to it. That didn't look good. Okay.
So
I don't know if we should change that. I think we should leave it alone.
I don't know, yeah, probably.
Just in case. So with those other ones, I think we're covered. After you went through those, because the other findings we have.
We had the other conditions in that, and I'm not trying to say you should put them on or anything, but one, you guys talked about a berm along the south side.
Yeah, to add that.
And
Probably,
to add to it. And that, so the 3 conditions that I've got adding besides what's here is begin reclaiming the east side by spring of 2024. Establish a berm along the south side of the open active pit.
yeah.
And that, I think that only makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then update the reclamation plan and financial assurance
And maybe stormwater if needed.
and stormwater.
Just maybe add that to be safe so that we have it in there.
Okay, so those are the 3 that,
Those would be the 3 added to the list that we have already. Okay. Everybody think that covers us well? Okay. So that one too, then I'll entertain a motion.
To approve with conditions stated.
Okay.
second,
And seconded by Doug. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, none. All right, so that one moves forward too. Okay. All right. So,
can we do D quick? Just because then we won't be tired.
ordinance update?
Yeah, still have not heard much from the DNR on that model ordinance. I reached out to him this morning. Mike Wenholtz is our shoreline policy coordinator. Remember, they were supposed to be meeting the week of the 14th or so of December. They were supposed to be sitting down and doing it. Still haven't seen anything on that. That's the only thing that we're waiting for on the shoreline and comp ordinance. Rural address ordinance would be,
2 is in there.
and that floodplain, and that heard an estimated time of mid-January to the end of January to hear our DNR comments back on that. So, and that was submitted, middle of November or around the 14th of November. So I guess 3 months takes a while, or 2.5 months. So, and so those two that's where they're at. We're looking at trying to bring all of these ordinances to public hearing, the second meeting in February. That would take and allow for March County Board. The rural addressing ordinance will not come to you guys for public hearing. That'll be going to Public Safety, Public Works. I believe that's February 7th, so that'll be ready to go on March as well. And then the last ordinance that we've got to talk about, which is agenda item C, is the renewable energy systems ordinance. And what Bob had in the packet before from Apple River Solar, we kind of threw that in there just to give you an idea of, some of the stuff I'm very out there on, I'm not very familiar with, that you'd even have that big of a battery storage system out there. So going forward, we didn't have a lot of control besides that joint development agreement with Apple River Solar, because they hit that 100 megawatt scale and then it went through the PSC. However, Extension did a good presentation at our fall conference. That kind of is what got us going on this renewable energy ordinance about, small scale and mid scale. And I think as time goes on and we get a lot more development, the ability to take and secure, 1,000 acres for a solar farm is going to become more difficult. So I think we're going to get a lot more solar and, medium-sized wind systems that are going to be falling on maybe 200 acres or 500 acres, which then the county does have the ability to regulate, to enforce, and have a lot more criteria, because the Public Service Commission is basically like the DNR at that point. They're advisory and they've got an administrative code. And the primary administrative code that applies to this ordinance is PSC 128. And that's a very in-depth administrative code. The county can be more restrictive at certain points during that code. But everything in this proposed draft is basically the same as the Public Service Commission's. So by putting this in ordinance form, then it allows us to have an ordinance and have the applicant or agent come before the committee before they install any of this. And then it gives us the authority to oversight afterwards. The county has had a small wind ordinance for, I think, going back to 2007, if I remember right, is about when that started. We've only used it twice. We got one small wind energy generation system up in West Sweden that I know of. And we've got one down in the town of Alden on 10th Avenue there, Carlson Farms. They've got a small wind generator. But that's the only 2 times that we've used that. We're getting
One on Bone Lake? West side.
I don't know. So
It's
No, I don't know.
It's there.
It's there.
and it is a wind generator, or it is,
I
yeah,
think it's just for him. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
is it? Okay.
that was one of the first ones, maybe too.
Maybe that, yeah, it probably predates me. So those are the 2 that I'm aware of. And so probably 2 or 3 months ago, I came to you guys and said, we can either do amendments to our comprehensive ordinance and try to go about it that way, or we can take and just redo our small wind energy ordinance. The benefit of doing the small wind energy ordinance is it's applicable in all the unincorporated areas of the county, versus the comprehensive is only going to apply in our towns that have adopted county zoning. You guys said at that time that you'd like it to be countywide, like our small wind is. And basically this ordinance, we just added large wind to it and solar. So those 2 things. And the wind and the solar are regulated under chapter 66, 0401 and 0403. And the way the ordinance is set up, and we'll go into more detail, but just kind of a summary. Private systems systems and that, where you're generating enough electricity for your own house and the buildings that are there. So in other words, it's an accessory to the primary use of that property. It's a utility, if you will. And those are just a land use permit through our office, as long as they meet these ordinance requirements. If it's commercial use, commercial scale, so then it's no longer accessory to the use on the property. I'm buying a 20-acre field and I'm filling it with solar panels. That is a commercial use. It's going back on the grid. There's no buildings on that property that are going to be sucking that electricity. Then that would require a conditional use permit, which is then going to bring them before you guys. So any questions so far before we jump in?
No, sounds good.
Jump in.
Jump in.
So anyway, basically, I'm gonna have Claire bring up a clean version of the ordinance. Yep, it's clean. We're gonna need to take and just repeal all of the small wind energy system ordinance and then just adopt this one, because it got to be so complex in that there's a lot of stuff crossed out and moved around and that all the relevant provisions from that small window are in this ordinance. So we're not losing anything that we've got currently. We're actually gaining a lot. So not sure why those section breaks are in there. But again, the ordinance is going to apply to all lands within the unincorporated areas. Scroll down. There's a lot of terms that we didn't have before, applicant, application, collector surface, and that's the solar panel surface. Yeah.
So I hate to have a question right from the start. So is this going to include these, like St. Clair Falls has their own zoning, Clam Falls that's unzoned, it's going to cover everybody?
Cover everybody.
Okay.
It's how it currently is. So this would be treated the same way as our subdivision ordinance for the county.
Yep. Okay.
Sure.
So collector surface, that's the actual surface of the solar panel. Collector use period, those are statute hours, so we cannot change those. They have to be there. That's basically what the statute is saying, that your solar panel is gonna work between 9 AM and 3 PM. You'll see where that is used down below. Commercial communications, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the commercial use that I just described about it being the primary use and the energy provided offsite.
I do too.
I got
Collector use.
another dumb question.
Okay,
Collector use period means 9 AM to 3 PM standard time. I don't know what a collector is, but when the sun's shining, wouldn't I be collecting?
and well. Good question. Okay,
Okay.
I was thinking this, I have the same thing circled.
those hours are set and that through the statute. So on
Ah.
that,
Okay.
but it'll make sense when I get down to eyes in here.
All right.
So,
Are you sure?
No, it
Are you sure?
It'll make sense. It doesn't anyway. So
just add some terms, commission, public service commission, committee, environmental services committee, so all the special exceptions would come to you guys. County, Polk County, decommissioning, and that is important because it's basically removing everything above ground and everything below ground to 4 feet. So down. So you got a big wind generator. I have no idea what kind of foundation they're on. They'd have to take it down 4 feet below grade. So that's very similar in that it's actually less than our telecommunication tower ordinance, so because our towers for cell towers, they have to remove it 8 feet down. So, but 4 feet seems like it's a standard with these renewables, so. ENR department, energy system facility, that's the term that we use generally throughout here, includes everything. If it's a turbine, if it's a solar panel, it's the collector wiring, access roads, everything. This is where that collector use period comes in, is impermissible interference. So that comes right out of the administrative code. And basically, if I have 40-acre property here, and I got a 40 right next to it, and I find out my neighbor is gonna be putting solar panels on their property, I can't take and all of a sudden go in and plant trees on my property here to block their solar panels. That's called impermissible interference and you can't do it during that solar collector period. So as long as you're not blocking those panels during that 9 to 3 PM time period, you're okay. It's not impermissible interference. If you've got a wooded 40 and you've got a 40-acre open field that an applicant is proposing a new set of solar panels, and it could be wind too, but wind towers are pretty tall, so it'd be a lot harder to, block them. So if I got an existing wooded 40 and somebody, wants to put solar panels on this open 40, that's not impermissible interference because this 40, they're choosing to build next to your trees. So it's not like you got to come in and level your woods now because the guy next door put in solar panels. And furthermore, you'll see it in here a lot. The Public Service Commission is 30 days in advance. So if I own this woods and I come in and I pull a permit to build a big privacy fence, let's say, that would block the solar panels during that collector use period. And that if I apply for this permit and if I'm approved for it before the solar panel application comes in, I'm still good to go ahead and do what I want. So in other words, in that it can't be retro, but anything up to that point is fine. So something we don't even have control over as a county because they're going to have to do that anyway. And a developer is going to have that authority underneath the Administrative Code 128. So, yep.
So could I plant trees halfway across my 40?
As long as you don't take and block it at 9 to 3.
So if you took that angle,
Yeah,
because otherwise, if it was later in the day, it'd be way down, it'd be way into the middle of your 40. So you could still damn near do 40 feet at the lot line. That's pretty close, I think, isn't it? I think I found a deal that said that it ends up 40 feet or something.
Well, and
On the lot,
that's
that's right
gonna
on the lot line, it won't.
and that during
9 to 3.
what time of the year too, because the sun is very low in the horizon.
Right
like
now, yeah.
But in the other part of the year, it'll be much higher, so.
But it's like.
Okay, so CW extension really has 3 different categories is how they suggested for any county or municipality to go about an ordinance for these types of renewables. Large scale, which is 100 megawatts or more, that's Apple River Solar that we've seen, goes to the commission. Then there's mid scale right here. And that's 30 to 100 megawatts. And then down in S's, you'll see small scale is 0 to 30. Just some standard terms. These actually came from our other ordinance and the administrative code. Basically, maximum blade tip height is when the blade is vertical, measure from the top of the tip of the blade down to the lowest exposed grade. This is a big term here. Nameplate capacity is self-explanatory. Non-participating property means a property that doesn't have a wind turbine on it or doesn't have a portion of the solar panels on it. That would be a non-participating property. Okay. Down farther, we have a participating property means that it's got a turbine or solar collector on it. And the reason that is because there's going to be setbacks between a wind turbine and the solar collectors from a non-participating property to protect them. And then a participating property doesn't have all of the rights, if you will, of a non-participating because of that. In other words, a participating, they're saying, yep, we are, part of this project, we have these on our property and they don't have some of the protections. We've got owner defined as the owner of the property could be, or the owner of the system that is being put in. So most of the time on these, like Apple River Solar, it's going to be, National Grid Renewables, that would be the owner of the system. That comes into play because we've got some general provisions that, of course, when anytime the ownership transfers, like we had a lot of conversation about with Apple River Solar and getting, all the new financial assurances for decommissioning, updating the contact information, the annual reports, all that kind of stuff. So That's another big term. I think personal communications is pretty explanatory. Political subdivision is a term that I left in and kept in a certain areas because I think it gives the towns a little bit more say into our county ordinance. But some of them I have questions on. Residence, I think it's pretty straightforward. Private use just means for your own use on, and that's what it's defining buildings on your same property, renewable system. Down, mounted. Shadow flicker means, shadows being put on your house or in your windows. There's a small scale, 0 to 30 megawatts. Our small wind energy system term. Solar collector, turbine. There's a lot of stuff in there about wind access easements, and there's a lot of contracts in that can be done. So if I have a non-participating household, I can take and waive some setback requirements for a participating property. I can waive shadow flicker, I can waive noise requirements. So that's why those are in there for those agreements. All those have to be recorded in the Register of Deeds office. So.
Jason, if we back up just a second.
Yep.
What does political subdivision mean in 660401?
And that means town, county,
Okay.
all municipalities, but it
Okay.
also includes, typically municipality doesn't include county, but political subdivision does include county. So. Yep. All right, so provision A and the general provisions there, that starts off with the owner notifying the county whenever there's an ownership change out there, so that all that information can be updated. Financial insurances, that's in sub 1. There's a lot of emergency services conversations back when we were talking about that JDA with Apple River Solar. I know Justin was a big part of that with fire departments and knowing how to handle these, for example, that new battery storage facility. I mean, how do you handle it? I mean, if you do have a fire there, is it a water fire? Is it a chemical fire to put it out? All that kind of stuff. So B, C, D, E, and F, and G, those are all related to emergency services. They have to provide an annual training and that to the, necessary county emergency management staff, which include local fire departments. They have to include a copy of their emergency plans and that to Polk County Emergency Management, the sheriff's office, our local responders, right down through the line, the clerk with the town, clerk with the village. They have to provide all the proper signage and a 24-hour emergency contact number. We've seen that many times. The owner has to notify the county if there is an emergency within 24 hours. The owner and that has to furnish its managers and that a copy of the emergency management plan, just to make sure that all the staff are aware what to do in a case of emergency. And then if there is an emergency event, they have to take and do a report back to us on how things went, what went well, what went bad, and then as staff, we could take and bring that to the committee so that you guys would know. And we could also share that with our sheriff's office and the local department and that would be responding or did respond for any future emergencies. Provision H is that they would file an annual report with the department documenting that the whole energy system would be updated and is properly maintained for operation. So that gives us some operation records so that we know that, that wind generator is actually being taken care of. I is one that Chairman O'Connell's hit on several times through a lot of conditional use permits, is that the owner shall submit a copy of all the state and federal permits to the approvals within 30 days of the owner's receipt. J is kind of a catch-all, and you'll see this in a lot of renewable energy ordinances, is that energy facilities shall preserve the agricultural areas by, minimizing soil compaction, topsoil loss, just the general stuff there. There's J and actually O kind of go hand in hand because the applicant shall design a renewable system to reasonably minimize the conversion of land from agricultural use down in O. So that's something that we've got kind of already with our telecom tower. So if you can situate a tower, on the edge of a field or in the woods and get the same, outcome, and that would be preferred over putting one right in the middle. I'm gonna back up and that to I there, that's just with those easements being recorded in the Register of Deeds office. M is the same and that with the leases and the waivers.
But I had a question on M, like any violation of federal, state, blah, 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 number one. So what happens if the company that owns the solar farm goes belly up?
Yep.
So the property owner is exempt from any costs.
Yep, so that gets into decommissioning in the back and
Okay.
that here.
Okay.
And that where the county is the beneficiary of that bond and that's, we
Yeah.
would have that bond and that we could execute.
Okay.
And we do have a way to establish what that amount is in here, and then we can go back and check it periodically, and if it's more than 10% lower or higher and that, then we can actually get a new financial assurance.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Q is another provision that's very similar to our telecom. Basically, if we do have a wind turbine, the tower to protect people from trying to climb it, there's no way to take and climb it or access it for 8 feet above the ground, is what Q is. R is just to make sure that the turbine and everything's all locked up. Pretty common sense. Appropriate warning signage, S. T is, to clearly mark and fence the guide wires, if there is guide wires on a wooden generator or any poles, and that those would also have to take and have fencing around them. Maybe it's a snowmobile, or maybe it's somebody plowing snow that's, in the compound itself. Maintain, yeah, U is maintenance again. All the collector facilities should be underground as much as possible. And that's so that we don't have this undesirable look and that where we got all these power poles and all these overhead lines and that. So put them underneath the ground as much as possible. If there is overhead lines, and of course, a lot of these will have a transmission line leaving and that, then there'd be an inspection schedule on those. That was W. And X is kind of a maintenance thing again, just that if there's anything that's bad, needs to be replaced. Y is that there's general liability insurance covering the owner and the property owner. Catch all. Z is an as-built requirement. I don't know about you guys and that, but if they have something on a plan, I might be able to check that to the plan, but I'm not gonna really know what the wiring is and if everything's done right. So that would be, Z is to submit an as-built of how everything actually got built out there. And that's within 90 days of when the construction and the energy system is up and running. And sub 1, because even if we get that as-built, we might not understand what that as-built means, and that we can have a third-party engineer review that as-built plan to make sure that it was done properly. And any questions on any of that?
Remember that instead of do the alphabet, because you're running out of, get down to C and now we're double A in it.
the whole formatting of this document is all gonna change in that
Okay.
because Muni Code is gonna have to go through and,
Do it again.
do their own and that, and they're gonna have to codify it, so that's all gonna change. Yep,
Probably get numbers instead of letters so you don't run out.
something, yep,
Then you don't have to double A or something.
yep.
At least it isn't Roman.
You can't count in Roman?
I can't. I'm not that old.
BB is one I've got a question on. And that for you guys, the owner and that shall provide a maintenance log and that to the county for the renewable energy system. Now, right now it's set up on a monthly thing. I don't think I want them monthly. That's what other ordinances have got, especially Clark County. But if you'd want, we could change that to like a quarterly maintenance log. That's probably,
Yeah, even or semi-annually. A monthly is way too.
Every 6 months, twice a year.
Yeah,
even
I
is
think,
enough.
I think twice a year to me would be
Yeah,
good.
plenty.
yeah, I started thinking of that too. How many, holy man, reports?
Well, yeah, and I mean, to keep track of them and that could be a.
Yeah, just twice a year.
Yep, but that's all at the owner's expense and that to provide us with those.
But it helps the owner out too, that they've only got to send it in.
Yeah,
And realistically, if we got to have that much maintenance every month, we're probably in trouble.
oh, yeah.
Yep.
Can we shut these interior light? I can't even see half my stuff. I'm sitting here
I
doing
know, it's
this.
really hard to see.
This is way too bright. Does that
Yeah.
inside one go off? There.
That's
Keep
Oh,
going
way
down,
better.
get me a chair that
Shit.
tips back a little more and we're good to go.
Nice. It was, I'm sitting here doing this. I couldn't
Yeah,
read.
that's better. Yeah.
Good.
Those are way,
More down.
those are way too bright shining
I
right
said
there.
that yesterday.
It's those
Nice, aren't
LED lights, that's why.
But it was glaring, so
Yeah.
I'm doing this up
I
here.
was having a hard time seeing too.
There, they won't.
Okay,
Quite.
and then CC is back on that impermissible interference. We kind of already went through that when we took and were talking about the definition of it. But basically, A, B, and C, and that is the building's already done. It's not dealing with anything in the past. It's only moving forward. And 2 is how the permit holder would go forward for an injunction to, make the property owner next to them trim their trees or whatever, so that they didn't have impermissible interference. Any question? Those are general provisions. So impermissible interference would apply to solar, small wind, big wind, all the emergency plans apply to all of them. And that the maintenance schedules apply to all of them, and that trying to put as much wiring in the ground as possible applies to everything. So those are why those are all general provisions. Covering the insurance and. Okay. Any questions on that? I'm trying to go somewhat fast because it is quite long, so.
Almost half. You're at a third.
Yep.
Page 9,
A third.
27.
Okay, so then we get into a subsection for the large wind energy systems. These are the big turbines. Currently, the county has no regulation on them. And that a few years ago, and that down at the
Permitted.
town of Forest, and that had a big thing.
Yeah.
You drove down there on Highway 64, no turbines. So while we're not really ideal area for wind turbines in Polk County here because of our, topography might come. So with that,
Climate change, it'll happen.
so provision A there is just that they're set up to try to minimize individual hardships. That's kind of a general provision. There's no flags or streamers or any kind of other ribbons flying from our wind towers, including advertising signs. That they're built out of conventional matte or unobtrusive color so that we don't have a chrome one or something like that. Then provision D is a big one. And this is where the participating and non-participating residences and community buildings come into play because these are our setbacks that we have. These come right out of 128. These are the minimum standards, so these, we don't really have to change, or I think they're sufficient. But basically, an occupied community building, there would have to be a setback of 1,250 feet or 3.1 times the height of the tower. Now, that'd be from maximum blade to tip height, you know, to the grade. From a participating resident, so I have a 40-acre parcel, I've got a wind tower on my property from my house, and that on that same property, and then I'd be 1.1 times the height. So in other words, it's just over the height of the tower so that the tower can't hit me if it was to fall in a storm or hit my house. Non-participating is the same as the community buildings. You'll see that in here a lot, that those two are basically one and the same setback there. If you're a participating property, there's no setback from the turbine and that to the property line. A non-participating property line though, so if, you know, I got two properties that are side by side and they both have wind turbines on them, and that, then there's no setback to that lot line. However, if Sam doesn't have any turbines, he's a non-participating property. And if this one does have a turbine, and that, then it's got to be 1.1 times the height of the tower away from that lot line. Makes sense.
It's almost like the old tower once. We had one and a half. If it
Yep.
tipped right over, it couldn't go across the lot line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, and that's so, as far as roads, road right of way, they have to be set back 1.1 off the right of way. And then overhead communications, 1.1. But overhead utility service lines going to the house that's on that participating property or going to these wind energy turbines, there'd be no setback to that because of course it might have to run right up to it. So. F, and that explains that it's measured at the closest point from the foundation to the turbine. The owner of a non-participating building can take and waive the setback down to that 1.1 requirement, but can't go any less than the 1.1. And then the owner and that can install lighting on it, but it has to be FAA compliant for the Federal Aviation Administration. Cannot build it close to airport or heliport that doesn't comply with chapter 114. And then J is kind of a catch-all because that's the last provision. And in case statute or administrative code 128 changes, then those 128, 14, 15, 16, and 17, and 13, it would refer back to that. So it's kind of our catch-all provision. Any questions with that? Good. Okay.
Good.
Wind energy system, and that there's hours defined in 128. Nighttime hours are from 10 PM to 6 AM. Daytime is 6 AM to 10 PM. The noise level is to be designed so that the nearest residences have the minimum noise possible, but basically limited to 50 decibels during daytime hours and 45 at nighttime hours. And then there is provisions F, G, H, they talk about how to measure them. It's to the closest point or where that property owner that owns that dwelling can specify where they think the noise is too high. We really can't jump in and say, well, our decibel reader says this and that, as long as they've been out there and they've done a reading and that at that spot within 2 years. So the county really can't fight that. But there is a provision that allows them to waive the noise requirement if they wanted as well. And that's going into the last provisions there of G is the waiving. You'll notice that with shadow flicker and that, and and that they're able to waive it as well. So.
You imagine that shadow flicker having one of those things and you're in your house? I mean, just a flicking of the lights when they, when the ballast is going out drives you nuts. Can you
So-
imagine that thing?
I guess there's computer
Just go
modeling.
dancing.
There's what?
I guess there's computer modeling
Yeah,
and that when they're designing these systems, that they can take and, get an estimate on, each house, how much shadow flicker they're gonna have. And they're actually limited to 30 hours of shadow flicker per year. And that otherwise they have to mitigate it some way. So then the owner or the applicant, might have to plant some trees and that to block it, or they might have to buy blinds for your house. That's all in 128 as well, and it's now in our ordinance. And you can take and actually require them to mitigate if they're over 20 hours.
okay.
So,
That's good to know. I had one other question that I wrote a note on. So this covers every town in the county. The town, like town of St. Croix, doesn't need to do anything. This will apply. Because I know they were discussing whether they needed to get an ordinance in place
right,
like this,
right.
but they don't.
But you can pay us
This
for doing
covers
it
it.
for
The
you.
town could be more
Pay us for
specific.
doing it for you. You can pay these guys.
Yep.
You can pay the county for doing it for you.
The town could be more specific if you wanted to, I mean,
Yeah.
if you wanted to be more specific than any of these provisions, you could try,
Yeah.
but it is pretty limited in that based on the statute and administrative code. So,
Okay,
Yep.
good to know.
That's how they'll hypnotize you, so you won't see the flicker.
so like I just talked about, the 30 hours and the 20 hours, that basically covers A through C there and installing the blinds. An owner can waive that mitigation or allow more shadow flickering underneath provision D. And that's through that contract. And the owner of a renewable energy system like this has to provide all the property owners within a half a mile of their facility with a written notice that states that they can only have 30 hours of shadow flicker per year. That's the same with the noise too, is that they have to provide that notice, so. Okay, any questions on signal interference or signal interference is the next one, shadow flicker was the last one.
Yeah.
Okay. Signal interference, there's a lot of stuff on the statutes on that. Basically, is it gonna affect emergency communications in any way? That would be commercial communications, personal communications would be more like, broadband, cell phones, that kind of stuff. Is there any impact on that? If so, the owner has to mitigate those. And in that one, and that whatever provider in that is providing it, they have to be in agreement too. And they have to provide that notice as well.
Doesn't really say how they have to prove it, though. I might not have good cell service to start, put it, say, well, they cost,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think it's kind of open, but just a thought. Let's keep going. It was a stray voltage thought. Oh, is that?
Great voltage is, mainly farm related, and animal livestock, and that was having that. And so that's provisions A through D, and they have to try to take and mitigate it, and they have to test at those dairy and confined animal operations within a half a mile of the large wind system, so.
Yeah, that one they did.
Okay. Now we're on to small wind. So these are those shorter towers that are a lot smaller in scale. Provision A there, basically exempting out a lot of the noise, shadow flicker, and signal interference, stray voltage provisions. Those are all going to have to change. That's why they're in blue, because we don't have this codified yet, so the terms are not perfect. So, and that's all those sections we're just going to have to notice. And the owner has to provide at least a 30-day notice before constructing the system. And it goes to the local account.
60 it
60
says.
days.
60 days, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, I thought it was on the
Yeah.
wrong page.
I don't think there's anything.
No, I don't think so, because then we just have agenda matters is all we have left coming up. So you're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, so it's
That's a good
60 days and then the town, county, and everybody gets notified at the same time. So in other words, back to your question, Sharon, that somebody comes in for a small wind energy system and that we're still gonna have to notice the town of St. Croix Falls and that for that system, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
That's where things used to get off. The towns didn't get notified of what things were happening, and all of a sudden
Okay.
stuff would happen. So that's why.
Provision D. That's the same setback table that we just had for large wind. So.
Is that $500,000 bathroom part?
They have to provide notice to all the adjoining property owners again, of the requirements of the ordinance. Big thing with a small wind energy system is it's considered at the end of its useful life, if it hasn't produced power and that for 540 days. Now, as we get in down below and that on when we consider it to start decommissioning, it's 360 days, but administrative code definitely points out it's 540 days. And I believe that's under 66-403. So, yep. So we have to keep the 540
Reason they pick 540,
Yeah, the company would be long gone.
and that, well,
but I mean, it's 365, it's a year and a half.
yep. It'll make more sense once we get a little bit farther forward. So,
Everything we ask
Don't
will make
scare
more
like
sense.
that. Somebody came up with a number somewhere.
Yeah.
It's 18 months.
Yeah.
so decommissioning in our decommissioning section, which is next after the solar, and that is supposed to start 360 days or within 360 days of when it quits producing electricity. And that, then you can give one extension for small wind up to 540 days. And that'd be a 180-day extension. And big wind and solar, we can do 2 extensions of another 180 days. So it'd be up to 2 years for removal. But they have to provide plans as we get through down below and that they're actually going to be doing it, or that they can actually refurbish the system so it produces electricity again within.
So how do we know when it quits producing?
They tell us.
Well, there's an annual report on
Annual
that's
report would say-
required.
So they could already be a year into it and then get all that other, okay.
Yep. Okay, solar energy systems, really kind of split that out for private use and then more of like a commercial use. Commercial use, and that is under provision B. Private use is under A. Right now, I've got it in there. This is up to you guys. But if somebody's gonna put a roof mounted system on their house or their pole shed or whatever it be, and that if it doesn't extend more than 24 inches above the roof, and that we would not permit that type of facility. Again, that's just for their private use. It's roof mounted. We would consider that a utility currently, so we don't permit them currently. But something like a pole mounted array that's out in your yard, still for private use, but maybe it's one of those ones that tracks, you know, that would be an accessory structure. And so that's where these guidelines come in, and that with the 15 feet in height, and that's blended in and that to the architecture. Not reflective, you know, so. Yep.
So they have to be fenced also, huh? So like the ones south of Osceola aren't fenced. Shall be enclosed by a fence with controlled access on number 3 there,
3.
unless otherwise stated any condition requirement, yeah. Is that private? I'm on
Oh,
page.
You're on,
Yep.
you're on the bigger one.
So you're on commercial.
Oh, I'm on the commercial, yeah.
Yep, so provision B,
Okay.
If I back,
Provision B
if
is
I back
probably-
up to one on solar energy systems, that's the smaller ones, right?
Yeah.
So I
AS.
could put them on every roof of every building on my place.
as long as it's primary for your use and that, and I'll tell you that
Right.
it'll probably produce more power during the day, you know, and then what you're actually using. And then, you know, at nighttime, a solar is not going to produce any electricity really. So then it's down. So I mean, during the daytime hours, you're going to be putting power back on the grid, you know, or during peak times, they're going to put power back on the grid and then they're going to be drawing off the grid. So usually they have 2 meters and that for that so that they can put it back. And at that time, then, but I mean, when it comes to the end of the month, their electric bill, it should be relatively close, you know, and that to what they're using, you know, so. And again, that goes back to private use is accessory to the primary use of the property. So if it's your dwelling, that's your primary use. And that just that you've got solar panels there, you know, and you're producing your own power. That's an accessory use, but taking and putting a solar panel farm on a 20-acre parcel that there's no buildings on, that's definitely intending to put all that power back on the grid for a commercial benefit.
So what if I put panels up? It would be considered an accessory structure. What if I was just charging the batteries that ran everything in my house?
That's
Do I
private.
still need the,
You would need a
it's still
permit.
gonna be an accessory structure, even though nothing is going back on the grid?
Yep. Because of setbacks, so that we can make sure that they're not, you know, in a private road easement, so that they're not in the right of way. And that, so that they're, you know, in a desirable location. So it's $100 permit. So that's not a conditional use.
Stuff,
before you
that should
do it.
almost be a building issue, building permit issue, because what if you put too many on and you cave your house in?
It's your problem.
Yeah, that would be, I mean,
No.
Mine's gonna cave in from snow.
she'd have panels on it that would have slid off.
Provision B is probably the thing that we would use most in this whole ordinance. For one of the things, and that's for the commercial solar farms. So basically that the system has to meet all applicable setbacks for zoning. And that they cannot exceed 15 feet in height. And if I remember right, those Apple River solar panels probably did. Because I think those panels are like 13.5 feet long, you know, and then they're on a stand, you know, so
4
they're
feet up.
really close. So number 3 is in that they're fenced so that, you know, animals and that can't be running through them, hopefully. Number 4 is that they have to have stormwater and erosion control plans. Number 5 is that if you got an existing site and it's, you know, maybe matured trees, that they're not going in and leveling it. Now, all of these are going to require conditional use permits. So I mean, you guys would be the ones determining, you know, how much tree removal is allowed. They would have to present their plans to you guys. Preventing the loss of topsoil. Soils are planted and maintained with a seed mix. Now, whether you want that to be consistent with the DNR or our department, but you guys are gonna have it before you on a conditional use, so you could always specify that as well. To make sure that that's done, and that this is a separate financial assurance, 125% of the cost of seeding and ground cover, and that would be required. So not a ton of requirements, but I mean, there's not a lot of requirements on these solar panels, as long as they meet setbacks, they're fenced in, height. I tried to think of anything else that you could, you know, really require. We got the emergency plans covered underneath general provisions. We've got any, you know, electrical trying to bury it rather than running it overhead. You know, so all those general provisions would apply to these as well, so.
So if I used cash for my bond for the seeding here,
Yep.
I'd get that money back once the vegetation was up and growing.
Yep. Yeah, so the annual report is still gonna apply to these, the operation and maintenance, you know, reports are still gonna, you know, apply. Decommissioning is a separate section, that's the next one. And provision C there, and that, well, B is kind of a B should be A and C should be B, but, and that basically that it should be, decommissioned as soon as it's at the end of its useful life. However, and that really is within a 360-day period. So if it's still there within or after the 360 days, then they have to provide us with a plan of how they're gonna refurbish that system so that they can provide electricity again. And if they do, then we can take and give up to 2 extensions for 180 days. So on top of that, so the 360 plus the 180, that's where we come up with our 540 days, which is provision D. Which after 540 days, and then we can deny any extensions. And at that time, then we would have to follow up on our bond, and that to have a county cleanup. So E is very similar. I'm gonna jump down to F and that, well, yeah, F and that, you guys would be the approval on that to make sure that everything was removed on site. So that would come before the committee. G is starting to talk about the funds and that to fully decommission the system. I think fully is a big word there. Because remember Apple River Solar and that we got prorated in that based on the age of the system and what we could have for a bond or financial assurance on file. So I wanted to make sure we had that in there. Provision 1 talks about the types of financial assurance that could be provided. Provision 2, and that is that the owner would provide us with 3 cost estimates for the removal of the whole system. And then the financial assurance would be for the average of the 3. So kind of an appraisal type of deal. They get an appraisal of 3 different parties. The county has to agree to who those parties are as well. So that's in provision 2. And then we take the average. So seems like a pretty fair way. And then number 3 is that the county is a secured position so that we're on that financial assurance so that we can access those funds. That's what number 3 is, just to catch all. Provision H there, the last sentence on that page talks about the energy system and that and having periodic updates to it. And if the system is going to be more than or less than 10% of what our financial assurance is to decommission, then we would have to get new financial assurance for that new amount, which would go back up into the 3 cost estimates under 2. So. And you just said we can't adjust it and that more than 175 years, which is pretty good. That's pretty much decommissioning.
How about J there? It says now that notice decommissioning, the administrator shall determine whether. And we go back a little bit and it was the committee that did that. Does that make sense?
That's true.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
environmental-
well,
It says the committee will do the decommissioning, then here it has administrators.
F and that the committee's approving the, or reviewing the decommissioning process and then confirming it, whereas J is just confirming. So
J is
the committee
confirmed.
agrees, I'd like to strike and confirm decommissioning of the energy system is complete on F.
Yeah.
That you guys just determine the process that the owner is gonna go through. And then we would just check all the boxes to make sure that they did it according to
Okay, and then, so then J would come.
staff.
So we
Alright.
just take that
We're gonna
last.
strike after process on F.
Yep, right.
Okay.
Good
Do we have
catch.
any confirmation in J from the administrator?
So J remains the same.
Do you want the administrator to do J or do you want the committee to do J? Doesn't matter to me. No least.
Well, it'll be financial then, won't it? To get their money back after they decommission if there's any left.
Could be.
So it probably should go through the administrator, I would think, maybe.
Well, the administrator be zoning staff.
Yeah.
or zoning staff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, well, I mean.
so right now it's saying
It
that,
seems it's
you know,
it's a lot
zoning
easier for
staff shall
zoning
determine.
staff
To do that,
to know if it's done.
yeah,
Or land.
You know,
and
if
water.
all, yeah, if all of the requirements have been satisfied, then us, because that
Yeah.
means
It doesn't
I
slip.
tear out my solar panel farm and then this committee has to go look at it and say, well, did he do it right?
Yeah,
yeah,
So leave it as is.
yeah.
Got a big hole for you out there, Kim.
Yeah.
Wish you had.
push it right in. So, well, do we want the administrator or do we want this zoning staff?
Well, the administrator is zoning.
Here's the
staff,
zoning.
It's gonna
one of
be
the same.
considered zoning. Okay, see, I'm thinking the administrator.
County administrator, yeah, no, and that the administrator is zoning.
It says right
don't
here,
want him
the
doing that.
administrator means county zoning staff.
Yep.
It
So
means county
everyone's got
zoning
different ones.
administrator.
Okay, all right, so I just didn't read the
Yeah.
other, the new.
So we
the
still
new-
wanna-
The new definition of administrator.
For this ordinance.
We still want to we still want to review it. We just
Yeah.
want
Him,
staff to make sure that it was
Yeah.
done right at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
I just thought it'd be
Yeah.
Vince doing it as administrator, so
Yeah, well, that would be,
The new-
that would be a nightmare.
that's what I thought. That's why I was trying to get it out of there.
Be expected to do some work at that point.
Yeah.
Hope you caught that in Florida.
Heard him laugh. He is on.
Is he? He caught it then. And he's telling us we're number one.
Okay, the next section is the complaint process. Believe it or not, 128 does have a lengthy complaint process. There's some of this from Clark County, and then I just tailored it to Polk County as well. But basically, if a non-participating residents or the neighbors in that half mile that we've been providing that notice to on all these different factors that are in this ordinance, if they have a problem, they have to complain to the property or the actual system owner or the property owner themselves. And that, so if the property owner, it doesn't own the system, then they would have to apply to the owner of the system. Then it's up to them to take and resolve that. And then if they can't resolve it, then they have to notify us within 45 days. They're hopefully going to take and fix those complaints though, and that within 30 days, or at least have an initial response within 30 days. That's under provision C. D is the 45 days to let the county know if they can't resolve the issue. And that's basically it. So it's kind of the owner and the people having the problem that are working it out first before they come to the county.
Well, F wants you to do it monthly again, though, so the complaint log monthly at no cost. Administrator or committee, should we want that less?
Well, the only thing about it, and that is, the reason why I left it monthly and I wasn't too concerned about monthly is because they have to report it to us within 45
5 days, so,
So I mean, that's a month and a half. So
yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of, and if there is issues going on out there, we might want to know about them sooner than later.
okay.
So we're giving the owner 30 days to respond, but only 45 days to fix the problem. So realistically, you're only giving me as the owner, you're only giving me 15 days to fix it. I mean, because I have 30 days to respond to Kim's complaint.
To
but then
provide an initial response. Yep.
Initial response.
Yeah.
Right, but then I've only got 45 days to fix, I mean, another 15 days to fix the problem.
Well, you still have the 45, because as soon as you get the complaint, you should do something.
yeah.
Then just sit on it for 30 days.
All
And
right.
then do it for 15. See, it's,
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
My
this
Supervisor Old
thought
45.
is that if you, then you shorten the 30 days to respond to the complainant.
You are correct. I mean, D does say that the owner shall try to resolve the complaint within 45 days. So.
Right.
Yep.
But it's also giving me right above it, it's giving me 30 days to just make an initial response. You know, I don't know. It seems like that window becomes very tight.
No, I think
Makes
it's,
that more restrictive.
I think it's,
I mean, if you want to make
I
it
think they still
15
have to
days.
go
or
45 days. As soon as you get a complaint, you should do something. If you wait 30 days. That's your
Right,
own
but then
fault.
I think, that's to my point of, you shorten the 30-day window up to make,
15 and 45.
to make the initial response.
Oh, okay, I see.
And say you get 16 days, 2 weeks to, what, 15 days for
To
the
answer
initial
the-
response.
Instead of a
Because
whole
then that
month,
gives you a month to fix the problem
go the other way, go
and
15.
go the
instead
other
of
way, not
30,
extend the 45 days, but shorten the window of
the
response.
30, yeah, go 15.
I don't know,
15 and 45.
15 and 45. I mean, that's all I'm getting at is if you give me,
They'd have to respond sooner.
they'd have to respond sooner, which
Sooner.
means in theory, I've agreed that there's
There is something
a
wrong.
problem.
Yeah, so if that
You know.
was 15 days,
I'll double check that, but I'm pretty confident you can make that more restrictive than that. So, yeah, but
so I think by us, we'd want
that's
15
coming right out
Get some-
of 28. So
Yeah. to speed that up. Okay. Yep. So we're in consensus set 15 days instead of the 30s. I put in there. Okay. Page 20 is a tough one.
page 20, we should strike solar energy
Alright.
systems right at the top.
I think if the last 8 are like this, we'll rip right through it.
We're done.
Now you got to turn the next page. We got.
We gotta have.
So we should be on land use permit applications, fees and expiration.
Yep.
We're through the context of the ordinance really at this point. We're just talking about zoning districts. And a land use permit shall be required basically in our agricultural districts, RA5, A1, A2, farmland preservation, A3, and then commercial. I put it in commercial as well, and industrial. Should probably add residential to that. There's really no need for it in a natural resource district, I don't think. I don't know about a hamlet district, typically hamlet districts are pretty small.
But can they do small solar farms?
Yeah, I mean, I could put them on my house in a hamlet, could I not?
Or on a
Yeah.
post there too.
Right.
So we
I
probably
mean, if I could
should.
put them on,
That's where the provisions come into place and that it's on the roof and that you don't need a permit,
Yeah.
if you're in those other zoning districts, permit is required.
But if they put it on a post, the one that follows, say like in East Farmington in the backyard, that structure, so you'd want it, that they can do it there. Wolf Creek, Indian River, any of
Just
them
thinking,
small ones up, would it be an accessory structure? If they're-
yeah, well, a lot of those areas are either town zoned or unzoned, so anything goes. Well, no, and
Oh,
they
we're
would.
covered.
Yeah.
We're covered it all, so we have to.
Do
So we should maybe put it in Hamlet in those to be safe.
you just want to put
Somebody
it in
does-
all zoning districts
I
then?
would think all
All
of them.
zoning districts. And if you said that, then that makes it easier for like the town of St. Croix Falls, which has their own zoning.
It could get ugly. And that, I suppose, in a residential subdivision, if everybody's got their free mounted solar array, and that, and you drive through the neighborhood, and I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking about, but
I'd do it in all of,
do it in all.
well, if you remember the satellite dishes first come out, look at them 12-footers in everybody's yard.
Yeah.
Those all of a sudden popped up everywhere. and Everybody's going like, what in God's name are these?
Okay, so that'll be all zoning districts. Yeah, and I've even got it clarified there, and in any area not zoned by a county zoning regulation, subject to the following requirements. So that's just talking about what they would need to include on their application, name, phone number, standard stuff. Additional use permit would be required for any mid-scale renewable. And any wind energy system in the St. Croix buffer zone, St. Croix Riverway, so those would even be private ones. Would still require, that came out of our small wind.
There's one up there in 87 on the top, isn't there? They take it down
I don't know,
Up by I?
up on 87, right? up
Yeah,
on the second
87 and
group.
I.
Yeah. Look at this one.
pre-application notice, and that would be done, is to send out notice to all the landowners within 1 mile. That's a big thing. The towns, the emergency first responders, DOT, and the planning, the actual Public Service Commission, DNR, DATCAP, and DOA. Secretary of the Defense, that's where that commercial communications comes into effect.
So would we have to send that out for a public hearing? Would we have to raise the price to send out people within a mile? My God, if you're next to the lake or something, you could have
A lot of
100 people, 300 people.
could be a lot.
I mean, would we adjust costs for that? Just for mailing? My God. That could be some time.
Let's create a new fee.
Be a new fee in the fee schedule.
Visit that in May when we look at our fee schedule.
See if they put one right out here, you know, right Balsam Lake on the north side or something. How many within a mile goes across the lake and everything? Holy man. How many notices?
So,
would we send?
but there is provisions in here.
Well, but I mean, we're not covering a municipality.
And that we are able to cover costs.
Cover costs.
And
We
that,
have cover cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
that for any third-party studies too.
Yep.
And that's part of
Oh,
this.
by Bone Lake or any of these lakes. up
Well,
there,
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a mile, holy man, and you're all of a sudden. You know, if you're on one side of Bone Lake or the other, it goes a mile across, you get 1,200. tons.
Yeah.
It don't take long. You do have 1,200.
Mhm.
Yeah, G.
Does G cover that?
The county may require the owner to pay additional fees, costs, and that outside attorneys, engineers, environmental specialists, planners, and other consultants.
So that would-
experts to cover actual and necessary to review and process the application.
So if that came into effect where they wanted to put it, that would be something we'd look at,
Yep.
you know, as you got the permit or first review, how many? Okay,
So this is on,
It only
this is on
requires
large
past one
scale,
notice.
this is on large scale ones only for G, or is this everybody?
No, that's for everybody.
this is mid-scale, isn't it, or no?
No, that'd be for everybody.
Okay,
So if I just want to put that one in my yard that's an accessory structure, I'd still have to go through this.
Well, there's not gonna be any other costs, so really, I mean. There's not gonna be any studies that we need or anything on something like that. So, and this is only under conditional use permit too, so if it's for private use, then there's no conditional use. either.
private use, it doesn't, that's what you're getting at. It
Right.
doesn't count, it's for the conditional use part.
Right, okay,
Mid-scale,
yeah,
So it's the bigger ones.
Yep.
Yep, okay,
Sorry, my formatting is not real good in here now that I'm up
Yep.
here going through it all.
yep.
So. Provision F. That's one of the things, it's kind of a standard to do a class 1 notice. I think we should do a class 2 notice just to be consistent with all of our CUPs and zoning district changes, so.
Which F are you on?
Page 24.
24.
Page, yep. F1,
Sub one.
My page 24, F is existing or proposed private on-site wastewater treatment system.
24 is?
no, down
It's
the
down.
page, F farther down the
Down.
page.
This F.
Yeah.
So we need
It's
numbers.
just like,
Just,
letters are becoming like Roman numerals.
I think,
yeah.
I'm up here doing wastewater treatment stuff. Okay,
so I think we should change that,
The class 2.
yeah.
okay.
H talks about the county granting the conditional use permit if it determines that the permit will not unreasonably interfere with the orderly land use and development plans of the town or county. No person has demonstrated that he or she presents plans to build a structure that would create an impermissible interference by showing that he or she has applied for the building permits. That's where that comes in already. And the benefits of the applicant and the public will exceed any burdens. The county may grant a permit subject to any condition or the exemption the county deems necessary to minimize the possibility that future development of nearby property will create an impermissible interference. So those are kind of the criteria. Those can be changed. Those came from Clark County ordinance.
Just the notice shall be recorded in the county register. We got B's there. Got an extra E on it. And I, if we grant one.
Oh, yeah.
And then in J,
Oh, yeah, I got an extra E on the B.
Yep. any person, I'm gonna go to J, aggravated county administrative decision under this section may appeal the Board of Adjustment. It should be appealed to the board. I think we should add two there, shouldn't we?
And J,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, to the Board of Adjustment.
Could be, instead of the county, it should be committee.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed by. the
County or
committee
administrator, yep.
Decision.
Should be committee, yep. Committee or administrator, all right.
I'll go through and proof this a little bit more. It looks like I need to, so. That's basically it.
It really looks pretty good. I mean, considering it's a whole new thing.
So the only thing, so now you go down to that, what the hell is that, L? The county shall give the permit holder written notice and an opportunity for a hearing on a proposed termination. Okay,
So if we're gonna take a.
that's
revoke-
different than our other
Yep, and then,
doing it.
correct.
So this-
So if we're gonna revoke a permit and then we have to provide them notice. So
Provide them notice and
of the
hearing.
ability to have a hearing. Yep,
Have a hearing. Now that hearing would be what, in front of the Board of Adjustment or the committee?
committee.
Okay, so the proposed termination would be
I can add that for a hearing before the committee.
before committee then, okay. And say we keep it terminated, boom, 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 then it would go, then if they appeal that, it would go to the BOA.
Right.
Okay, so any appeals of that, the hearing would go to the BOA.
Yeah, I did not include circuit court in there. So.
Okay.
O is extra. Same thing.
Okay. Two. Two.
And then back in administration and enforcement, talking about that we can revoke the permit for substantial non-compliance. And that, or if they refuse for us to inspect anything. Then the department is not required to issue that notice of non-compliance. That before following up on the ordinance, because that kind of goes with that warning conversation that we had with the shoreline, that we can jump right to revoking, so. But then back up a few provisions, then they can seek a hearing, because in part of our termination, would have to include the notice for that public hearing
For that hearing.
option. Really fast, but. Clean her up a little bit more before she goes to county board as far as formatting and.
Sure. Sure, my eyes are sore. We're good.
That's why there's some errors in there, yeah.
That's why
My eyes
there's
were
errors.
pretty sore after I worked on that, so. mhm.
That's about it. Reading it in red doesn't help.
That's why I just got rid of that small win because I got,
Oh, God, yeah.
'cause I had stuff crossed out and I got new stuff and everything, so it's just like, oh, it's way too complex, so. But not a lawyer, but in my opinion, I think that this is very spot on to the statute and the administrative code language. So I'm not too worried about it not being unlawful. But by putting that language from the statute and administrative code into our own ordinance, it gives us the ability to permit, it gives us the ability to have the hearings. It gives us the ability to, regulate the shadow flicker and stuff versus trying to rely on the Public Service Commission. And then if we needed to, we can have that financial assurance to make sure everything is taken down and that in the benefit of the county's name, you know, on that financial insurance. So that's what I think is the benefit of that.
It was just
Because we
some-
didn't know when Apple River came in, we didn't know what we could do or what we couldn't do. or-
Kind of caught with our pants down.
some- It gives us some say now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, at least.
And
yeah.
there again, I don't think, the whole wind portion of it, I think is pretty much irrelevant. Full count.
You remember way back when you and I were on the ordinance rewrite? We talked about this, Polk County is not listed as listed.
They
Yeah,
gave
I
us,
mean,
actually, there is a couple areas, but it's all of the St. Croix in the river
Just a
district.
Couple areas is what.
And it was so small that it was, that there wasn't enough area. Because the guy at 87 put that one up, because we did a test there. Karina
Oh,
set it
really?
up, and you could see it from downtown St. Croix Falls. You could see it from Chisago.
oh,
You
wow.
could see it from the middle of the field, because he wanted to go 200 feet. So then when it switched around for a little bit, he put one up, but I don't know if it's still up, but he shortened it way up. Is it down again?
Don't you recall Geronimo? They did that wind study?
Yeah.
Remember that? That
Geronimo
was-
did the wind study, and it was only in about 3 spots in the whole county that would even justify.
Most of the wind, consistent wind is in the Fox Valley for Wisconsin, that is.
Yeah,
So
oh,
that's-
for, yeah, way down.
Yeah. We had a neighbor who wanted to put one up just for his own use years ago, so we went to a meeting with him. He had 2, 3 neighbors in it. The guy come right out and said, well, you can't put them up if you think they're going to be profitable. You know, it's a way of, you know, it's a way of life. It isn't about, you know, making money or.
It's a
breaking even.
feel-good thing.
Yes, a feel good.
It's a
Yes,
feel-good thing.
yes.
One of those.
I went by, this is, we were driving through North St. Paul on 36, and they have that big giant one right by the city hall and stuff there on 36. And my granddaughter said, Grandma, why is that moving? There's no wind. And there was no
Don't take a
wind, and that big thing was moving. Well, they're using a gasoline fire motor to make it move, I suppose. I don't know.
It doesn't take much, but it showed, if you look, God, what was I watching? It was on YouTube where they have so much, they put some buildings up that make tunnel wind in town. So now they have the deals that are spiral.
Oh,
The
yeah.
wind blows up. It's so bad, it was
Mhm.
blowing people over if there was any wind. If you came out of the building, it knocked you down.
Wow.
So they had to put walls up to block it. It's in the Netherlands. So they're putting these spirals next to the building, so it looks like a big chute, but it's actually spinning it and making electricity.
Huh.
It's a spiral one.
Huh.
But they were showing this deal where the wind is 9 miles an hour. It's 84 miles an hour going down the road. The cars were going sideways. The people were tipping over. They just went like. It's in engineering something, mistakes or engineering something. It's interesting to see. And you look at that and just go like, how could one building do that? But it did in a town, you get that tunnel wind. So unreal.
So how do you feel about the renewable energy ordinance or the wind and solar ordinance? Is it in pretty good shape? I do want to acknowledge Jason's work. I think he put about 4 days into it. And
Put it on the board. We'll find
pretty
out.
comprehensive. What's that?
Bring it to the board. We'll find out.
I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think
I
it's.
do.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, this
And the
set
thing
of
the thing of it is, we're not gonna know until somebody applies.
Yeah.
You know, and then we'll find out what we gotta tweak at the end of the day, but I think it's more than a very good starting point.
Yeah,
it's a very comprehensive set of provisions and
it is.
to regulate wind and solar and it's proactive. And I want to give you all credit because, yeah, we did learn something from Apple River Solar. And so we'll be better positioned.
The counties all around us are like St. Croix is really close to this too. And Pierce County, they got caught because they put what am I trying to say? They put like 4,500 feet for the setback. So they made it so you couldn't put it anywhere. The whole
Oh,
town. So they got nailed.
yeah.
So they
I'll
have
give you a big hint in that. I love to plagiarize, so.
Coming from.
St.
somewhere.
Croix, but Pierce County got nailed and they set the setback so high. They just in the transmission lines, you wouldn't make any power because you'd lose it all
Sure.
at 4,500 feet and
Yeah.
all this and stuff. So they had to redo theirs.
We reduced the setbacks down on the small wind energy systems because you more than likely don't have that whooshing, and that, you
Yeah.
don't probably have as much shadow flicker and stuff. But I mean, it ain't gonna hurt, and if so, you can always get that waiver and that from the other neighbor to say to sign off.
It's close.
Less, so.
But the one right on M and double M, that one, that guy didn't, that neighbor fought it a little and he signed off. That one's right on the lot line almost. It almost fall and hit his house. But see, they have engineering plans for that, that'll break in half and not fall. So you don't need the 1.5. Like the telecommunication towers, you used to have to do that, the one in
That is
Farmington,
in our telecommunications tower ordinance. So our telecommunication towers.
and break in half.
Kind of setbacks is this here, and then but if they provide a fall zone letter from an engineer stamped. And that it'll collapse on itself, or it'll collapse within 50 feet, whatever that is, then we would accept that as.
So the one in Farmington did that so they could get an apartment building, that's almost right under. This will blow over and bend in half before it falls.
It's the kind of one you want to have to climb up and do work on, isn't it?
Or see the crane do it. We had a meeting a while ago, the one in 35, the crane was up, you couldn't even see the top of the guys up working
Yeah,
down there.
you mean
When it
on the
was foggy.
Verizon tower?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
you couldn't even see them up there, so,
Very nice work, Jim.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's very good.
So we can schedule a public hearing in February for this ordinance, along with the floodplain
The floodplain,
review.
Throw it in with everything
I would
else.
say put them all on there, so we'd have one big, yes, as many that are ready when they come back.
Push the DNR, but really the floodplain and the shoreline, it's just being held up by the DNR. Otherwise, we're
We're on
sitting
task.
there.
We're on task, good. We have a new head of the DNR, so it should move.
Too.
Yes, we
Yeah,
do.
and
the
away
place-
from being a county administrator, you should just be
So,
firing this stuff through.
Yep.
So Chairman O'Connell, is it okay to move on to number
10.
10? Yeah.
Yeah.
January 18th meeting, we will not, so far, we will not have a public hearing. We did take note that subsequent public hearings will start at 9:30. We'll post that in our future notices. Next meeting's going to be an interesting one. We have Cody Knopf coming from APHIS to consider the wildlife damage claims. He's on the front of the agenda. We'll have Mo update us all on parks and trails.
We might
Like I
be,
mentioned earlier. so-
try to keep him kind of first, I think, so he doesn't have to sit here all day.
Oh.
That's been working, I think.
Yeah, because it's
better.
usually pretty quick and,
Right.
Yeah, I think if we keep him first,
yeah, I think so.
he doesn't have to sit here all day.
Mo.
Yeah.
And then after Cody will be the presentation from SRF, our consultants,
Okay.
with the Gandy feasibility study. Jason's going to be here to talk about some outreach education and the right to rent law, provide you all with some talking points on short-term rentals. Maybe we'll have the floodplain ordinance reviewed by the state, maybe not. But regardless, I think Jason and I will give you an ordinance amendment update similar to this meeting. Next is Tim Scutley. If you all recall, we wanted to invite Extension to come and present in January. They have offered up their new AED, or Area Education Director. This is Kristen Bruder's successor. His name
She's
is-
gone.
She moved to a different area. So the state is broken up into
volatile.
districts.
Tired
So he is coming, and perhaps Ryan Sterry as well. Michael has another commitment. So that's what I know. I'll communicate with them some more, but they are invited. Thereafter, I'll give an update on the Comprehensive Trail Network Plan. And also something that we're gonna try to move back to earlier in the year is our annual reports. If you recall last year, and I don't remember the reasoning why, but it was moved to align with our budget season. So the annual reports were delivered in September, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, I
for the
remember
year
that.
before. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that didn't mean anything to us.
So, yeah, we talked about it. I know land and water, land information, I'll work with Sally, but we'll have an annual report for you to deliver probably in February. So maybe that first.
That wouldn't even make more sense, wouldn't it? That you have an annual report in the first 2 months of the year, and not at the end when it's over and can't do anything. It's
That'd
just
be
bizarre.
wrong. That'd be wrong, Chairman O'Connell.
I know it'd be wrong, but-
Sometime.
It's different with every division, I've noticed.
But I mean, like,
Yeah.
we get all these plaques for doing the bookkeeping and all this, but our audit comes in September too, a year later. Unbelievable that you can be that far off.
Well, we made that adjustment in the work plan, so we'll have the annual reports for you earlier this year.
It would make more sense, I mean, to us.
So yeah, a lot of presentations. If you think about extension, our consultant and Jason's talk on short-term rental outreach.
Well, if
And then,
the
of
dates
course,
on the
Cody-
zoning, then we can move them on. Then are we just about done with all of them, are we?
Yeah, if they get
Just-
back to us on floodplain, then we'll just go probably with what their suggestions are, because they're gonna have to certify our ordinance anyway. And so I'll just go over those revisions with you, and those will be able to go to public hearing. So
And go to
Really
public
just
hearing.
public hearing.
Nicole and I will work on drafting the notice and that for the second meeting in February then for all the ordinance hearings. So
Yep.
we'll get that out.
So like, we want to move extension in front of SRF too, because they're going to be here till, they're going to have the stakeholder meeting afterwards. All I'm looking at is an extension could get out of here if they wanted to, as far as
Yeah,
on the
for,
agenda,
for
you know.
order, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Our stakeholder meetings start at 11. So I was hoping I have to,
Hey, Bob, when's the last time we've been done at 11?
right. So we need, the consultants and I need to be out of here by 11. So that's why I wanted to have
Okay,
them.
that makes
earlier.
sense.
So they're gonna drag it out that long, is what you're saying?
I'm sorry.
They're gonna drag it out that long?
No, I just wanted to be sure.
They have an
where we're
idea
going.
how long their presentation's gonna be.
I've encouraged them to keep it brief, but again, there might be
You're
questions.
engineers, what's brief?
Yeah.
You gotta give them a number. You gotta
That's
give
all
'em a
right then,
number.
as long as you got to be out of here at 11, that's fine. I was just looking at saying, why are we keeping extension here until noon
Tell noon if they don't have to be here, yeah.
if they don't have to be, but no, then I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can't, on any of these presentations, we can't say brief, we have to give them a number.
Right, well, we have Cody first, right?
Yeah.
And then our consultants.
You remember we used to have to put timelines on here? They tried to for us. Boy, it worked well, didn't it? 15 minutes,
It may have worked once when there was two things on the agenda.
9:15 to 20 for an update on a zoning issue, and I'm going like, we got all of 10 minutes? Boy, that'll work. And we're already 10 minutes late.
That was an initiative to run effective meetings, so we wanted to just stay on task.
Stay on
Maybe
task.
that works in other places. It's never worked in this.
It was just like, oh my God, give us a break. Yeah, because every meeting was done at 9 o'clock or 9:30 or something almost. God.
I suppose, Jason could come in last too. We could move extension, like flip with.
Well, he's only across the hall now. He
Right.
doesn't have to run through the snowbanks to get here.
We'll switch that around. So that, it'll be an interesting meeting, informative, and you'll make some decisions on wildlife damage claims.
Did he say how many of those? Were there
I haven't gotten.
18 or something?
Oh,
I was thinking the year
you
before.
did say
was
that one
under-
was, what was that one? It was unusual.
The nursery,
Yeah, the nursery one was
Okay.
unusual, yeah.
Yeah, the nursery one was in.
Feel it on me. Do we need to reach out to him beforehand to get those? Do we normally have those before the meeting?
Yeah.
Your review? Okay. I can't recall.
I thought he sent the
Well,
list.
he did give us the list for the
Give us the
nursery one.
list.
He gave them for prices. is all.
Prices.
But
Oh,
no,
the
he used
list.
to
we
give us the
didn't-
list
yeah,
of
keep-
who
Yeah,
it is and everything.
and how much
Because
it
we would
was.
look, because the same people sometimes up
I don't
north are
remember
always
if
the
we got
same.
them before. I think we did.
I thought we had the list beforehand to kind of look at.
We'll check.
Haven't got it though. I haven't seen it.
No, we haven't got one
No,
yet
we
this
have
year.
we got the list of
Prices.
prices.
We did the
Yes.
pricing.
Yeah.
But we don't have the list of who, what, where.
Who, yeah.
Planes, yeah.
Yeah, who, what, and where. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
See,
But if you can get timelines from people, their presentations, and you can play the game where, who's, what, where.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. Biggest thing is we keep Mo, we can control,
Mo,
get him in, out, boom. Or if he wants a short one in writing once, we can tell him that, so he doesn't even have to come. He can give us one in writing. I mean, so he doesn't have to come to every meeting. Maybe we should tell him that.
okay.
Like this one, he's maintaining and doing it. He could have given that one to us in a half-page writing, and he wouldn't have to show up at all. I mean, if there isn't a real lot or something, because I mean, the next one, because the bid openings are after the meeting. Because one is, what do you say, February 19th, and the other one was
February.
January,
February 1st, I thought he said.
some of them. So
I'll ask him.
he could
Oh,
give
no,
it,
he was putting bids out February 1st.
Yeah, some of those are
the
going out
19th,
too.
Yeah.
but I mean, he could do a short half-page in writing and not have to show up if it's that short, I think, and just save them.
We would just hand it out or I'd read
We
it.
could hand it out or read it, or we could put it up and read it, or they could send it to us.
If we have,
Yeah,
just
even
if
they
we
said-
have questions. But
Of course, they plowed snow on the parking lot. What are you gonna ask? Which way did they push the snow or what?
I just want to know if he's got the roads plowed on my way home.
Well, that's not us. That's your town, not him. All right, how are we doing? Are we good? Are we to number 11 yet? Are we?
Sir,
Oh, I make a motion, we adjourn. I'm gonna go check out.
And non-debatable. All those in favor, say aye.
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 I'm gonna go check out that corner of the building.
There you go. Check.